You're on 2? Oh, good.
Yeah, turn mine down too.
D-Mace, Finken, and Donick 102.5. The Game, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Bingen, and David Janes here with you. Willie, Derek, and I are live from First Horizon Park. The Nashville Sounds host the Louisville Bats tonight at 6:35 p.m. It is Throwback Thursday here at the ballpark. Great seats are available, so come on out. First pitch at 6:35. Gentlemen, when I got here, I was watching batting practice. It's hypnotic, man.
Oh, I love the batting practice.
Just watching.
It's calming.
Just watching and hearing the crack of the bat and the ball fly into the outfield.
Good tunes playing in the
relaxing.
background.
Got a little Shaka Khan playing.
Yeah, they did go throwback with
Yes.
the tunes, the playlist too.
Got a
Even
little
before
Shaka.
the fans
They
got
knew
here,
you
they're
two were
starting
coming.
the vibe. Oh yeah,
They knew you two were
Oh, yeah.
coming. So Nashville Sounds, Louisville Bats, 6:35, first pitch. Of course, you can hear that game on ESPN 94.9 The Fan tonight. Again, first pitch, 6:35. I do quickly want to start the show with this. I heard Chase mention it, and I want to mention it as well. Today is the 4-year anniversary of the passing of Floyd Reese. And Paul Kaharski at paulkaharski.com published a story not too long ago that the Titans surprised Sally Reese and Floyd's family, unveiling a new conference room in the personnel area of their headquarters that is now named after Floyd. So I just want to take a moment, just note the fact that they can't believe it's been 4 years today since we lost Floyd Reese.
Unbelievable. And, you know, he spans so much of the Major League sports history of our city. When the Oilers first moved to Tennessee, he and Jeff Fisher both, I thought, were just outstanding as early ambassadors who embraced the media and realized that, hey, let me introduce this team and the NFL to this city. That Floyd could not have been better as an ambassador, communicator. D-Mace has obviously an even deeper relationship than I do, but I had the pleasure of working with Floyd basically every Friday from 5 to 6 for about, I don't know, eight years or so. And then, as many of you know, later, as he retired and got out of football, he became a regular host on our station, first with George and I, and then later with Jared, of course, and had a fantastic presence. So just a guy that made an incredible mark on a city in the first generation of us being a major league town.
Yeah, he was he was a part of the first generation of NFL sort of fan and allowing engaging the fans with the team and bringing the team here and orchestrate everything that had to do with the Tennessee Titans moving here to Nashville. First to Memphis and then having to go to Vanderbilt and play the season there. Thank you, Vanderbilt. But then he just had to navigate all that stuff. I mean, he had been with the organization since 1986. So he was a fixture in the organization. But to have to do what he had to do as far as moving the team here, getting the fan base or the players ingratiated with the fan base, being sort of he was a spokesperson for the organization. And he's a part of Nashville's fabric when it comes to sports and even beyond that, but when it comes to sports, because like you said, Willie, after he stopped, being GM here, he segued years later into radio here, and people had an opportunity to really get to know Floyd Reese. And what he thought about the Titans, how he loved the Titans. And it was just, for us, at least it was an honor for us to be able to work alongside him, especially me, him drafting me, and then, being able to work alongside of him, especially on Sundays on the pregame show.
Well,
he, Jared, and I, we would have a good time. And then the drafts, we would do the draft. So, it was just he will forever be, a central figure in Nashville sports. Forever be a central figure in Nashville sports.
Well said. And, we're relating to it as the radio side, but the guy was one heck of a GM.
Yes.
As well. He drafted Derek. He drafted Blaine Bishop. He drafted Eddie George, Steve McNair. He traded for
Javon
Frank
Curse.
Wyche. I mean, he built that team that went to the Super Bowl and had all those great runs, and then sort of rebuilt it as he moved on, as they moved on from him. But he had a great run as an NFL general manager, and that team will always, just like you said, he's always going to be remembered and felt for his impact, but he'll also always be associated with those great teams that just came in like a ball of fire, especially, no pun intended, with the Titans, Flameheads. But when they became the Titans and went to the Super Bowl the first year, for people new to town, I don't know if you can really comprehend what that did to our city. It was just an absolute lightning bolt that struck our city. And he built that team.
So we honor Floyd Reese, the 4-year anniversary of his passing. Still hard to believe it's been that long. Yesterday, we updated the L'Jarius Sneed legal situation. There has now been an update to the update from Paul Kaharski at paulkaharski.com. He writes, quote, L'Jarius Sneed said he didn't do it, and officials now agree, but he's not entirely out of trouble yet. The Titans cornerback initially faced a felony charge for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon for a December 6, 2024 shooting in Carrollton, Texas. But in court documents responding to the connected civil suit, Sneed's attorney said that he was not liable because the alleged acts, if any, were performed by a third party, quote, without any assistance, encouragement, or direction by L'Jarius Sneed, end quote. The criminal case has now been sent to the grand jury for a September 25th hearing, but for a reduced Class A misdemeanor charge of failure to report. In Texas, it's a crime to fail to report a felony if you witnessed it under circumstances where a reasonable person would believe serious bodily injury or death may have resulted. A grand jury could indict him for that. Then if he's found guilty of that formal charge, he could be sentenced up to a year in county jail, a fine of up to $4,000, or both. So the update is the charge on L'Jarius Sneed has been downgraded from a felony charge for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon to a Class A misdemeanor of failure to report.
The NFL going to end up suspending him for a few games, I believe. They are. Just for the mere fact of what you said last, that they're still going after him, not because they believe he did it, but because he didn't tell who did it. And I get it. I understand why you didn't say anything. But the league is going to look at that as, okay, that's something detrimental to the team. So he may,
to the league, right?
And to the league. So I could see him getting suspended a game, maybe two, but they're not going to allow him to. I don't believe they're going to allow him to walk away scot-free, even though, the initial charge was dropped, but they're charging him with something lesser. So if he's found guilty of that, the league will suspend him. I can't see him doing any jail time.
But this is also, I agree with that. And I do think this is a step in the right direction.
Yes.
That it's downgraded to a misdemeanor. And did you say that it affects or does not affect the civil suit part of this?
Kaharski wrote in court documents responding to the connected civil suit. I think this is independent of the civil suit.
Okay.
But I am not a legal expert, despite how many episodes of Law and Order I have watched in my life.
And I would imagine between now and September 25th, there'll be more updates to the update of the update.
Yeah.
Right? They'll keep working on this behind the scenes, I would think. And then, as you said, Derek, the thing that a lot of people will be curious is from a Titans standpoint, just purely a sports fan standpoint, does this affect L'Jarius Sneed on the field? Will they suspend him or not suspend him?
I think that now that they've downgraded it, I can't see him doing any time in county. There may be a fine, or say he has to do something during the weekend after the season. But I can't see him I can't see him doing any actual jail time. But if indeed he has to do anything, like even if it's downgraded to, hey, listen, you got to do this on a certain amount of days after the season, the NFL is going to take that as them charging you. You've been found guilty or you agreed to it. So we're going to suspend you for a game or two.
So again, the update to the update from Paul Kaharski at paulkaharski.com. L'Jarius Sneed's felony charge for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon has been reduced to a Class A misdemeanor of failure to report. So we will look forward to the update to the update to the update as this story continues. Gentlemen, I was reading an interesting column today by Gentry Estes in the Tennessean with the headline, "Football Coaches Yell. Why is it a big deal when Titans Brian Callahan does it?" And the crux of Gentry's column was he addressed what he called the quote-unquote coaching double standard that has taken place with Brian Callahan. And Gentry frames it around that blow-up that Callahan had at practice earlier this month after an especially bad practice for the Tennessee Titans. And I'm looking for the passage that I want to highlight from Gentry in this column, which I enjoyed. Here is what Gentry wrote, quote, "By now, I'd say this discrepancy in terms of how Callahan is covered on this subject versus other coaches runs deeper than personality. Its persistence deep down implies an unstated bias and lack of confidence in Callahan's ability to do the job. That's only natural after a 3-14 season. If an NFL coach is lucky enough to survive such an awful season, then everything he does or doesn't do gets subjected to scrutiny." Gentry also mentioned that after that blow up from Callahan, the questions weren't just about, hey, what was wrong with today's practice? It was, why are you're yelling? We're not used to you yelling. And there were questions to players. Hey, how is it to hear Brian Callahan yell? Is that new to you? Is that weird? Like, it just felt, I understand Gentry's point. I thought it was a well-written column.
Yeah, it was. I mean, but this is something that, because he's not that guy and he didn't come off at the beginning when he had an opportunity. Now people look at it as something different. Like when he does it, they look at it as something different. I don't think people are used to it. I don't think people will ever get used to it. If you'd have came in, like Vrabel came in, you knew he was snarly. He was just rough around the edge. He was that type of coach.
He was right out of Central Casting.
Absolutely.
Right?
So you knew exactly what you were going to get.
Who becomes the coach. The Mike Ditka mode.
Absolutely. So you knew exactly. You had an idea of what it was going to be like, and it turned out to be just like that majority of the time. When Callahan came in, you didn't look at him as being that. You looked at him as, a guy that honestly wear flip-flops with his jeans, a T-shirt on, and just easy life. It's just easy. Not to say that his life has been easy. I'm just saying he's late. It seemed like he's more laid back.
Yeah.
And then when you hear the yelling and the screaming, it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Did he just, what's going on here?
Yeah. And Gentry made a good point. When you move on, they fired Mike Vrabel,
yeah.
right? So the natural thing that a lot of organizations and colleges do is you fire one guy, you go with the next person who is a very different personality, right? You go the other way. So you go from the hardcore disciplinarian or the Mike Ditka to something on the other side of the spectrum. And I think Brian Callahan has a little bit of that reputation. It's certainly not natural for him to be yelling. And then the other thing is it's a struggling team.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a proven coach. He's not coming from somewhere where he's got 4 or 5 big winning seasons or playoff games. So that also has you kind of, let's see what this guy's about. He's not Mr. Tough Guy. And I do think sometimes the guy who's a little more even-keeled can get a bad rap because that approach, whatever your approach is, can be effective.
Yes.
Just because you yell and scream doesn't mean you're a better coach.
No.
I know people who yell and scream a lot that are not good disciplinarians and not good coaches. Yelling is nothing but hot air unless it's driven in the right direction.
You got to know when to do it
Yeah.
and how to do it. But I think
It becomes
some
noise
of it,
after a while if it's not done effectively.
but you got to understand where did Brian Callahan, just look at the coaches he's been sort of connected to. It seemed like all their personalities are the same.
I was just thinking that. I was thinking that today. I'm like, who are the coaches who, if you are grouping them together based on their appearance, would be in the same group as Brian Callahan? For example, Mike Vrabel and Dan Campbell, they're in their own group.
Right.
Brian Callahan.
The Ditka family tree,
Right.
or what do you call it? The
Parcells.
in the Darwinism, the descendants of Ditka.
The survival of the fittest group. And then Brian Callahan's in a completely different group. And the first coach who came to mind is Mike McDaniel. Mike McDaniel, the head coach of the
Right.
Miami
Now, he's an
Dolphins.
extreme example.
And I'm thinking to myself, do people in Miami wonder why Mike McDaniel doesn't yell? Are they having these same conversations in Miami? Like, I wonder about that.
When they're winning, no.
He had a little initial success,
Yes.
which
Yes.
helped him, right?
Exactly. If you have success early on, whatever personality you have, people are going to accept it. Mike Vrabel is a prime example. He came in. You knew coming from New England and Pittsburgh and places that he played, you knew exactly his temperament coming in. But he came in winning, so you accepted it. Everybody was like cheering Mike Vrabel. The minute he started losing, what happened? We don't like that anymore. We don't like
Right.
when you yell and be snarly, man.
Bill Belichick, same thing happened to him
Yeah.
in New England near the end. That shtick plays well when you're winning. To use a hockey example, John Tortorella. When John Tortorella's teams are playing well, the blow-ups at the news conferences and the squabbles with reporters
Yeah.
and stuff, people love
The
that.
fans get behind that.
Right.
They love it.
But as soon as things turn south,
He's crazy. Get him out of here. He's crazy.
He's volatile. We can't have this.
But John Cooper, who later took over the Lightning
Mhm.
and has won championships, he's much more of the Brian Callahan.
Yes.
Even keeled. He's a lawyer, right? Like
Yes.
John Cooper. He's much not like the cookie cutter out of central casting that you usually see in the movies.
615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We'll take your thoughts on the update on L'Jarius Sneed. Today is the 4-year anniversary of the passing of Floyd Reese. Any memories of Floyd, feel free to share. Thoughts on Brian Callahan. We'll get back to Callahan in a little bit. But coming up next, The Athletic has ranked the NFL's 25 best rookie quarterback seasons of the past 25 years. I thought it would be informative to look through some of these and wonder if we should recalibrate our expectations for Cam Ward. We'll do that next. 615-737-1025. We are at First Horizon Park. So let me tell you that today on ESPN 94.9 The Fan, the Nashville Sounds will take on the Louisville Bats right here at First Horizon Park. First pitch is at 6:35. Coverage is also available on the Game Nashville app and at theGameNashville.com. Sounds Baseball on ESPN 94.9 The Fan is presented by Twin Peaks and Family Leisure.
Happy Thursday, everyone. Derek Mason here. And if you've injured yourself in a motorcycle accident, go to lawtigers.com for your free case evaluation. Even if your accident was months ago, you have nothing to lose by calling Law Tigers. Insurance companies want to pay out as little as possible. As a matter of fact, nothing at all. But Law Tigers make sure you get the compensation you deserve and doesn't get paid until your case has been settled. They understand how much your bike gear is worth to you and will help you get it all repaired or better yet replaced. Law Tigers is the resource the motorcycle community turns to when in need. So whether it's to support you at an event or if they see you broken down on the side of the road, with Law Tigers, you'll never ride alone. So call 1-800-LAW-TIGERS or visit lawtigers.com. That's Law Tigers, which is powered by Freeman and Fuson. You can find them in Nashville, located at 2126 21st Ave South. That's Law Tigers, Tennessee's motorcycle lawyers.
Nashville's best deal of the week is Bavarian Beer House, conveniently located Free Mills Mall. Enjoy beer, food, music, and fun at Nashville's only authentic German beer hall, where it's Oktoberfest every day. Head to thegamenashville.com/deals now to get a $50 gift card for only $25 to Bavarian Beer House while supplies last. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingen here with you live at First Horizon Park. I am convinced that Willie stole the hookup for the PA because this playlist is right out of Willie's personal.
It's like they grabbed my phone,
yes,
and copied my Spotify playlist or something. This is good stuff. I have no complaints with any of the songs.
Hey,
We have
like
a little
them.
Earth, Wind, and Fire right now.
Wonderland.
That's right. Right out of Caddyshack, when Rodney Dangerfield starts blaring this song right in the middle of the golf course.
Hey man, these some good tunes. They know what they're doing here.
Let's go to Eli on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Eli has a memory of Floyd Reese 4 years ago. Unfortunately, Floyd Reese passed, but Eli has a memory. Eli, go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, hey, fellas. Hope you're having a great Thursday today.
You as well.
I've been listening to this station a long time, probably about 6 or 7 years. I was just flipping through the radio station one day, and then I heard this old man and this younger guy just arguing about ball. And what I'll never forget is one time, I don't know if it was a caller or if it was a teammate, Jared just kept flip-flopping on takes. And this guy said, Jared, you backpedal harder on takes than Kevin Byard in the flat route. And I never heard Floyd Reese blast harder than that. And then from then on, he just kept roasting them all the time, and it got me hooked. And I've been a listener of the station ever since.
I can hear Floyd
Well,
laughing.
Eli,
I can hear Floyd's laugh right now. He's got a great laugh.
Thank you, Eli.
Yeah. I'm sure they had, well, I've heard many of back and forth between he and Jared. So, and he meant so much to the station, you know, and we honor him each and every year and continue to do, because he was a part of the instrumental part of the fabric of sports here in Nashville.
He was.
So thank you for the call. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Eli. Before we get to the list of the 25 best rookie quarterback seasons, according to The Athletic, we have a couple of texts on our text line. Josh in Nevada says, if L'Jarius Sneed gets suspended, do y'all think the Titans will get rid of him, considering they wouldn't owe him all the money?
I mean, depending on what his contract says, there could be grounds for termination and them not be on the hook for the remainder of the monies owed. Now, that's something that I'm sure the NFL Players Association will, you know, if indeed that happened, they will get involved. But you said it perfectly, Willie. The NFLPA, they only standing on one leg right about now.
There's some upheaval right now in the Players Association. It may not be the best time to be filing a grievance,
but they would have to do it if indeed it happened. They would have to do, but I don't know exactly the language that is in his contract. But if there's anything in his contract that says, you know, detrimental, you know, conduct detrimental to the team, if he's found guilty even of the lesser charge, they would have grounds to terminate him. Now, people say, well, he just didn't tell. I get it, but if the Titans can be that petty, they can be that petty.
Well,
and but I don't know if that language is in his contract. I'm saying if it is, they can be petty and say, we're gonna part ways.
And of course, there would be if L'Jarius Sneed had played All-Pro football last year, then maybe you would not want to look and see if there are grounds to terminate the contract. You would not choose to do that. But if you've got a guy that's banged up and not the player it once was, it's not the first time. It wouldn't be the first time that you would challenge something like that. I think it could be challenged on both sides.
Yeah.
And so let's not put the cart before the horse, because I still think right now, as we said, they still would love to see if L'Jarius Sneed could help them on the field. They certainly need the help.
The Athletic had a story published yesterday by Nick Baumgartner, ranking the NFL's 25 best rookie quarterback seasons of the past 25 years. And I found it instructive to go through this list. Of course, every team wants a rookie quarterback to perform the way that Jaden Daniels did last season for the Washington Commanders. That happens once every 25 years, probably. Maybe not even. His numbers, by the way, last season, 69% passing, roughly 3,500 yards, 25 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, nearly 900 rushing yards, 6 rushing touchdowns, and the Commanders went 12-5 and made it to the NFC title game. Titans fans
on a franchise that hadn't won anything
correct
in 30 years.
And I'm sure there are Titans fans who go to bed every night. They kneel by the side of the bed. They clasp their hands together and say, "Dear Lord, give me a Jaden Daniels-like season from Cam Ward." Amen. But it's unlikely. But here's what I thought was interesting. Here's the first thing I did. I went down to the bottom of the list because Jaden Daniels, by the way, who is number 1 on this list, just to give you the top 5. Jaden Daniels with the Commanders last season was number 1. C.J. Stroud with the Texans in 2023 was number 2. Dak Prescott with the Cowboys in 2016 was number 3. RG3 with the Commanders, they weren't the Commanders back then, in 2012 was number 4. And Ben Roethlisberger with the Steelers in 2004 was number 5. But I thought I would go to the bottom of the list. I want to see who is number 25 and look at the numbers, look at the team record. And I will tell you guys, there were a lot of names on this list that I said, this qualifies as a great rookie quarterback season. Number 25 on the list. We've been talking about him a lot over the past couple of days. Daniel Jones with the New York Giants in 2019. Here was his stat line. He completed 61.9% of his passes. He threw for 3,027 yards, 24 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. He had nearly 300 yards rushing with 2 rushing touchdowns, and the Giants went 4-12.
They were a bad team.
But it's just interesting to me in terms of keeping Cam Ward's rookie season in perspective. And we did this earlier this week when we talked about the story written by Teron Davenport and Jeremy Fowler, looking at the record of teams that start rookie quarterbacks, and that Andrew Luck had 11 wins and no one else came really close.
Right.
As a number 1 overall pick quarterback. I just thought this was another way that we could attempt to put Cam Ward's expectations, his projections in the proper perspective.
I think that's all we're trying to do. Anybody who has people can have a strong opinion on what they think is going to happen, and we'll do that, right? As we watch, we're going to give our opinion, but I think these are really good exercises to try to understand how hard this is and what is a reasonable expectation. This list is interesting to me in The Athletic because I don't know exactly how they did their criteria, but there are some guys who weren't on very good teams, but are higher than guys who actually quarterbacked teams their rookie year and had a good year. For example, Derek Mason's Baltimore Ravens in 2008, Joe Flacco is 21st. I would put Joe Flacco's rookie season, just because the team was good, taking over a veteran team like that and leading them all the way to the AFC title game, that to me would be much higher rated than the person they have number 12 on this, which is Caleb Williams last year. What? Caleb Williams, better season than I don't get that. But I think still with Ward in the big picture, it's interesting to look at all these seasons and say, what would you take if he got on this list at all? Would that be satisfactory for at least the first year?
I think if you base it on numbers, he's gonna. I think he'll fall somewhere, between Daniel Jones' numbers and whoever's number 15, or he might fall in between the first and the second as far as number wise, or how you look at their seasons. But I see some similarities in the Giants, in the Titans, especially the division, because back then Philly wasn't a juggernaut, Dallas wasn't a juggernaut, damn sure the Giants were not, and Washington wasn't. You draft a quarterback early. I don't know what happened in New York. Maybe he just wasn't the numbers. They were down a lot, so he got to throw the ball a lot, and maybe that inflated the numbers some. But you're in a division, the Giants, where you still had an opportunity, even with a rookie quarterback, to win that division because it wasn't locked up by one team. The Titans are in the same sort of position. depending on how Cam Ward develops. And again, it's not about the numbers, because the numbers right here tells you it really, like, you can throw for 3,500 yards. You could throw for 20-some touchdowns and only 10 picks, and your team still ends up 4-12. You may be developing, but your team isn't. For some reason, that means your team was at the bottom of the barrel, which I think the Giants were. The Titans are in a different position. It's the same but different. The same from this standpoint. There's no juggernaut in this division. There's nobody that we just gonna say, oh, it's clear cut. No matter what happened, they're going to win the division. Do we pick Houston to win? Absolutely, we do. But it's not that type of division.
So
But
you have categories here like
Yeah.
Flacco. You have Brock Purdy, who took over a veteran San Francisco team and did really well, but he's not ranking super high on this list. And you've got a couple other in that category. Yeah, maybe Mac Jones would be, in that category. The post-Brady Patriots still had the Bill Belichick structure, and they were pretty good. They made the playoffs. He was okay. Then you've got the top guy. Well, and I would put Matt Ryan in that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Teams that were already Ben Roethlisberger already sort of in place, where the rookie quarterback had a lot to work with. So the most impressive, for sure, are definitely the last 2 years. Jaden Daniels last year, and number 2, C.J. Stroud the year before. That's where the bar is set, unfortunately, because of the recency, right? A lot of people were like, well, Stroud did it. Daniels did it. Why can't Cam Ward do it?
Well, their rosters, at least Houston's roster. I don't know about Washington's roster. I think Washington had a lot of things go right for them during the season. And Daniels
but they just simply hadn't won much. Exactly. The same thing with Houston.
Absolutely. But Houston's roster, I think, was a lot better.
They had more in place.
More and more in place. The Titans, I think, because of this team is different from last year as far as the talent-wise at the top end. I'm not talking about throughout the roster. I'm saying at the top end. Because I think that the talent is better at the top end, mainly the offensive line. I think that he can have a Daniel Jones type season, and the Titans are going to end up winning more than 4 games.
Number 23 on the list, Adam. Marcus Mariota.
And keep that name in mind, because I want to discuss Marcus Mariota coming up next. 615-737-1025. We are discussing the Athletics ranking of the NFL's 25 best rookie quarterback seasons of the past 25 years. I found it instructive in terms of setting expectations for Cam Ward in year one. Here's my question to you at 615-737-1025. What would you take as Cam Ward's stat line in his rookie season? Passing yards, touchdowns, etc. You tell me the baseline, the realistic baseline. 615-737-1025. Tune into 1025 The Game this Saturday at 11 a.m. for our college football game of the week. It's that time of year, folks. Iowa State versus Kansas State. Presented by Twin Peaks Restaurant, Circus Sportsbook, and Macero and 12 South. Take your tailgate to Twin Peaks, home of 29-degree drafts and wall-to-wall sports. D. Mace Vingan and Donick 102.5 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan live from First Horizon Park. Sounds and Louisville Bats tonight, 6:35 first pitch. Throwback Thursday here at the ballpark. Great seats are still available, so head on out. Quickly, before we get back into our discussion about the top 25 rookie quarterback seasons, one texter wants to know, are we still doing silly underdog picks, or are we going to do it this week? We will a week from today. We will not do it for week 0 of the college football season. We will do it for week 1. So 1 week from today, we are still finalizing things, but next Thursday, the return of silly underdog picks.
Yeah, people are eager for it.
Yes.
Year 31.
Especially the defending champion, turncoat, Chris Sanders,
Yes.
who went against his alma mater in the biggest game of the year at the time, the Ohio State-Michigan game, and won with Michigan.
Hate it.
And he felt zero guilt.
No.
None whatsoever.
And he ran away with the title.
Even if you told me Michigan was going to win and you showed me in the future Michigan was going to win, I'm still picking them to lose.
You would not have gone there. You would not have gone there.
Never.
Neither would I. I would
Derek,
not have done that.
Clearly, you are not as ruthless as Chris Sanders, the most positive human being
Right,
I've
the
ever
most
met in my
positive. He
entire
gives you
life.
all this positive energy, and then he just undercut his
Get
alma
better
mater.
or get better. That's what Chris Sanders says. So here's the question I had for all of you at 615-737-1025. What would you take as Cam Ward's stat line in his rookie season? Baseline. Josh on our text line says 2,700 plus yards passing, 21 plus touchdowns, less than 12 interceptions, and a passer rating of at least 79%. One texter says north of 2,800 passing yards and a 3-to-1 touchdown to turnover rate. Alex from Montreal says 3,600 yards, 25 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Dustin from Hopkinsville says 2,800 yards, 22 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, and at least 550 rushing yards. Interesting. So, Willie, you teased it. Number 23 on this list, as chosen by The Athletic, of the top 25 rookie quarterback seasons of the past 25 years. I want to emphasize that last part. Of the past 25 years. Number 23, Marcus, what did Roger Goodell call him?
Mariotto.
Marcus Mariotto. Anyway, Marcus Mariota in 2015. Stat line, 62.2% passing, 2,818 yards, 19 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 252 yards rushing, and 2 touchdowns. Now, here's where I need the help of Willie and Derek. So I was fresh to Nashville in 2015. I had just moved to Nashville in March of that year. So I arrived when Marcus Mariota was drafted by the Tennessee Titans. I hadn't been paying attention to the Tennessee Titans, and that year I wasn't week in and week out paying attention to the Titans. So remind me of how it felt around here and how people felt about Marcus Mariota's rookie season as it went on.
Well, it was a bad team,
Yeah.
right? That was, they had the second pick in the draft.
Yes.
Mariota went right after Jameis Winston. Ken Wisenhunt was the coach.
Mhm.
It didn't go well. The offensive line crumbled. And yet, at the end of the year, D-Mace, just in terms of Mariota, given that context, the mess that the franchise was, I thought Mariota did all right. I thought he flashed enough that I was like, okay, if he can build on this, he's going to be pretty good. But here's the one little tidbit. People will remember this. He won the first game against Jameis Winston head up. I knew he had a big game. He threw 4 touchdown passes. But not only that, he threw 4 touchdown passes in the first half of his first game. Like, imagine the euphoria as they played that game and won. And they only won 2 games the rest of the year. So, and then, of course, Wisenhunt was fired in the middle of the next year, and Mike Mularkey took over. And they went from there. They went from Mularkey to Vrabel. But so that's an interesting backdrop in this town, D-Mace, to think about that season and what you could learn from that in what Cam Ward is stepping into.
Before you answer that question, Derek, I do have a trivia question, and I hope it's not out of date. Can you name the 3 NFL players with 4 passing touchdowns in their first career game?
Well, we know one.
One of Mark Rippon.
Mark Ripien is one of them. Rippon. No, actually, no, that's not true.
Mark Rippon isn't.
Frank Tarkenton.
Oh,
is
Fran Tarkenton.
Not Frank.
Frank.
Fran.
Sorry,
Fran Tarkenton.
I saw the K in Tarkenton and moved it over. Fran Tarkenton had 4 touchdowns, 4 passing touchdowns in this first career
And of
game.
course, there's a guy right down the street. He's probably just rehabbing from an injury right now. Didn't Will Levis through 4?
Indeed.
Yeah.
Throw 4?
Think about
Yeah.
that group.
Or did he throw 3?
No, he
threw 4.
It was 4 too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Will Levis, Marcus Mariota, and Fran Tarkenton are the 3 rookie quarterbacks to throw 4 passing touchdowns in their first game.
If I think the
Fran
optimism.
Tarkenton's somewhere going, what?
Like, who and what?
Me and who? Fran Tarkenton is in
Anyway.
the Hall of Fame.
Go ahead.
I think, there was a lot of optimism with Marcus Mariota after his rookie season. And rightfully so. The team wasn't good, but I think there was some development. And, they got Wizard Hunt out of here. So I think people were happy about that. But I think people were, if you're talking about an arrow, up or down or, sideways, the arrow was up for Marcus Mariota after his rookie season. And he doubled down. The next season was his best season of his career. That second season was his best season of his career. So to me, if Cam's career, like number wise, or just the way it starts out the first 2 years, minus the record, if Cam is trending like that, I trust what they're doing with the roster, that it will be a much better team. I'm not talking about this year. This year will set a foundation. I think next year will be the team that exceeds it and move forward.
In his first 2 seasons with the Tennessee Titans, Marcus Mariota had a record of 11-16. He completed 61.6% of his passes. He threw 45 touchdowns and had 19 interceptions, along with roughly 6,200 passing yards. So this is the question.
Let me correct one thing I said, because I looked it up.
Mhm.
Wizard Hunt was fired during the first season.
Yeah,
of
that's
Mariota,
that
not the
season.
second.
Yeah.
I thought it was the second season. I got that wrong. So Wizard Hunt went 1-6. The only win was the 4 touchdowns in the first half of the first game. That was the only win that year for Wizard Hunt, and that's when they moved to Malarkey.
So keep in mind that how a quarterback performs during his first season is not always a harbinger of what's to come.
Fair.
Robert Griffin III, yes, if I had the bell, I
Yes.
would be dinging it right now. Robert Griffin III, albeit he suffered a major knee injury, but Robert Griffin III had an outstanding rookie season. And I was living in Washington at the time. I remember how excited then, now Commanders fans, I don't want to say the other name that I mistakenly said earlier this week. Now Commanders fans, I remember how they felt at the time. Then he suffers that devastating knee injury, and he was never the same. Now, that's injury related versus just overall decline. But if Cam Ward were to have Marcus Mariota's rookie season, again, 62.2% passing, 2,800 yards, 2818 to be exact, 19 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, roughly 250 rushing yards, and 2 touchdowns. Would we consider that a successful first season for Cam Ward?
I think so. If you're basing it by the numbers.
Just by the numbers.
Just by the numbers.
Because the record might be the same. Those Titans were 3-13.
Mhm.
These Titans may be 4-13 or 3-14.
If you're just looking at it based upon the numbers, I like to look at it from a development standpoint. How does those numbers look? Are he getting those numbers late in the game where they're down, or they're fighting through things and he's getting these numbers then? So it's not just black and white. There's some gray in it. But if he does have these numbers, I believe this is a better team than that Titans team was back then. I think the wins would be better than 4. And I would take that. If they have 5, 6 wins, 7 wins, I'm good with that as long as the quarterback is developing. And if the numbers are like Marcus's, I think we can't help but look at it as a positive thing.
Yeah, I think we have to look beyond the numbers. But if you're just giving me that set of numbers, is the only things that take it or leave it, I would take those, because I think that would mean that he's on the field for most, if not all, of the games. That's the first thing, right? Can they keep him confident enough, successful enough that they keep running him out there, and of course healthy enough? Here's why you have to look past the numbers. Here is the line of a one of these rookie quarterbacks. 62.5% completions, 3,541 yards, 20 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 489 yards rushing. But I think most people think he struggled some last year.
And who would that
Caleb
be?
Williams.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those numbers on the surface look pretty well.
Yeah.
Pretty good. But they were 5-12, and a lot of people thought he didn't have a great year.
If you
People were
watch the
worried. They
game,
fired
yeah.
the,
If
they
you
fired the
watch the
coach
game.
and all that stuff. So those numbers didn't translate to a lot. They were 5-12. So they thought something was terribly wrong with that.
615-737-1025. We'll take your thoughts on this. We'll get back into it. The top 25 rookie quarterback seasons of the past 25 years, according to The Athletic, helping us shape our expectations of Cam Ward and year one. Coming up next, Chad Withrow from Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow on Outkick will join us a day early. We'll talk to him about all of this. We've got some Vols-related questions as well for Mr. Withrow, and we will do that next. 615-737-1025 this fall. Live at the Pinnacle at Nashville Yards, Tim McGraw will perform at Trinetics' Rock the Cradle. This event is sure to be a great time celebrating a great cause. Proceeds from the event will support newborns and moms at Ascension St. Thomas Midtown. Get your tickets now at rockthecradlenashville.org.
Derek Mason here, and if you've been injured in a motorcycle accident, go to lawtigers.com for your free case evaluation. Even if your accident was months ago, you have nothing to lose by calling Law Tigers. Insurance companies want to pay out as little as possible or nothing at all. Law Tigers make sure you get the compensation you deserve and doesn't get paid until your case has been settled. They understand how much your bike gear is worth to you and will help you get it all repaired or better yet replaced. Law Tigers is the resource the motorcycle community turns to when in need. So whether it's to support you at an event or if they see you broken down on the side of the road, with Law Tigers, you'll never ride alone. So call 1-800-LAW-TIGERS or visit lawtigers.com. Law Tigers is powered by Freeman and Fusion, and you can find them located in Nashville at 2126 21st Ave South. That's Law Tigers, Tennessee's motorcycle lawyers.
D. Mace, Fingan, and Donick, 102.5 The Game, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. Willie, Derek, and I are live at First Horizon Park. Sounds host the Louisville Bats tonight. First pitch at 6:35. Throwback Thursday here at First Horizon Park. We are pleased to be joined on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, by Chad Withrow from Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow on Outkick. Chad, I want to do an exercise with you that we did amongst ourselves yesterday and our listeners. This is something that we are going to do periodically throughout the season. I thought a few weeks into the preseason and training camp was a good time. We're calling it the Cam Ward vibe check. So if I ask you that question, I'm asking you for your Cam Ward vibe check after 5 preseason series, a few weeks of practice, a highly publicized kerfuffle, that's the word I've landed on, with Jeffrey Simmons. Give me your Cam Ward vibe check.
Yeah, cautiously optimistic is what I'll go with the vibe on Cam Ward right now. I like most of what I've seen. I honestly like the whole dust up with Jeffrey Simmons. I think the Titans need a little bit of that, and Jeffrey Simmons doesn't always bring it at the right times, but it's kind of who he is. And I like that Cam Ward is the type that believes in himself enough where he's going to go get in the face of Jeffrey Simmons and say something to him. So I think the Titans need a little bit more of that edge. I don't mind it coming from the quarterback position. So, look, I'm cautiously optimistic. There's some things that I really like. There's other times where he looks like a quarterback that's swimming mentally a little bit and is about a half second too late. And as you guys know, if you're a half second too late in this league, you're not going to complete many passes. And we've seen some of that from him too, which is to be expected with a new offense and starting out in the NFL. So, again, cautiously optimistic. But as you guys continue this exercise, check back with me in 2 weeks. That could change.
Fill in the blank for me, Chad. L'Jarius Sneed will play blank games for the Tennessee Titans this season. 5.
I think the verdict is in that he's just not a guy who's going to be healthy throughout his career. So I am not optimistic on L'Jarius Sneed. I know he's gearing up for week 1, but I think if you get a third of the season to a half of the season out of him, at this point in time, you're probably happy. That appears to be a bust of a signing for the Titans and what they went in with a guy who looked like he may have had some issues before they brought him in.
Now, when you look at that, Hut, should they, if indeed that's the case, because, you know, he's not what we thought he was going to be. At least he wasn't last year because of the injury, and I'm hard pressed to say he would ever get back to that level of football that he was playing in Kansas City. But with that being the case, it doesn't seem like the Titans have really addressed that position the way they needed to, knowing the history of his injuries. Listen, I know they got Brownlee Jr., but he's on one side. I know you brought in some other guys that are okay, but it doesn't seem like you really tried to address it. So that tells me that you are banking on L'Jarius Sneed being out there for majority of the season.
Yeah, and I think that's a mistake. And look, I mean, there were so many holes on this roster, D-Mace, as you know, going into this offseason that you could attempt to address, you know, some gushing holes with some bubble gum at some different spots, but you weren't going to get a complete fix at every spot. I think corner is one of those. It looks like a spot that it's going to need a high draft pick, especially if L'Jarius Sneed plays, 5 games this year, as I'm predicting, or even if it's 8 or 9 games, you're going to need to use a high draft pick. But I also look at receiver. And if we're looking at the draft next year right now, if Cam Ward shows something, you're going to want to draft high to get someone to help him out on that side of the ball. And receiver is going to be a need too. So it's a bit of a mess right now with the corner situation, but you could say that about pass rusher, about edge. You could say that about a number of spots for the Titans right now where they just have too many issues to plug up in one off season. I think corner is one of those, and I think you're right. I think the organization is crossing their fingers, toes, and everything they can in hopes that he can complete a season healthy and be productive.
Now, another position or another player that I'm concerned about, not so much that it's his play, because coming into this offseason or into this training camp, we knew the guys that were injured. We knew the guys that were going to be on PUP. L'Jarius Sneed, Cushionberry, guys like that were hurt last year, had to have surgery, so we knew they would be coming into camp sort of hobbled or managed. But T'Vondre Sweat, now he's had some things happen that was out of his control, but it's concerning that I'm not seeing him on the field as much, and he's not playing in the games. And a big fella like that, I think you need the reps, and I understand he understands that too, and the Titans do as well. But guys like that they're going to depend on, they haven't played much football in the offseason, well, in the preseason.
Yeah, it concerns me too. And, we can sit and talk about the value of preseason, about what it means for the players and how many reps they need to gear up and get ready for the season. I'm looking at the number of soft tissue injuries that happen in week 1 of NFL seasons, and I'm thinking, you need to throttle up a little bit in the preseason before you get out there and play in a regular season game. And I think we see a number of guys who don't get enough reps doing that, and then they get out there, and when they're going NFL game speed, injuries happen quicker. So that does concern me, and especially with someone the size of T'Vondre Sweat. And also, it kind of goes back to the Titans' identity of who they are. Like, what are they telling us when they draft T'Vondre Sweat in the second round? They're saying, we are going to build inside out. We are going to try to dominate physically in the interior of our defensive line with Jeffrey Simmons and with this guy who we think can be a difference maker with his size, strength, athleticism, all of that. And so then when you start to have injuries in those spots where you're trying to build your identity of being this tough physical team, it really hurts you settling in on that identity. And I think that's another downside if T'Vondre Sweat, isn't playing a lot or can't go the full season. So I'd like to see him get some more reps. I'd like to see him stay available a little bit more too. And I think that he could be a big part of whatever the next generation of Titans players will be and what they're trying to establish with that roster.
Chad Withrow is with us from Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow. You hear his colleague on our show as well. Chad joining us. And Chad, I'm looking ahead. We know that things are going to have to go right for them to have any kind of success, especially early in the season. And knowing the volatility of Amy Adams-Strunk, if the Titans come out and go 1-6, 1-7, do you think that they would show the patience, or would you really be concerned that they would have a lot of pressure and, based on her track record, a John Robinson 2.0 making a big change in the middle of the season?
Willie, I think what the Titans need in ownership is someone with your temperament right now. You are.
What are you trying to say?
You are the most reluctant person to move on, right? To do something rash, to pull the plug.
I am more patient than most. Yes.
Yes.
Some say patient. Some say reluctant.
Right. What? I'm one that doesn't automatically take the low hanging fruit. It's the coach's fault. I'm definitely like that.
Yes.
But I'm not sure Amy Adams is, or the mysterious people that surround her. And other than Chad Brinker, there's some people that I'm not sure we really know much about them, but they definitely have the voices. So I do wonder who, how that process would go if they're really struggling.
Yeah, and I say that as a compliment into what the Titans need right now. Like, there are times where you just need to call it what it is and move on from someone. I just don't think now is the time. And I'm getting really tired of just the shifting of the blame game, right? It was, okay, you made the trade with A.J. Brown, you lose to the Eagles. John Robinson, it's your fault. You're fired. And then, okay, now the team is struggling and Mike Vrabel doesn't do everything I say, so Mike Vrabel, it's your fault. And then you go back to, okay, now it's Rand Carthon's fault. Well, now whose fault is it this year? Brian Callahan, since we're going back and forth from GM to coach? I'm with you, Willie. I don't think it's always just one thing. And to answer your question, absolutely not. I don't think she's going to have patience. I think if this team is 1-6 or 1-7, I think the writing's on the wall, and they're going to be looking for a new coach, which means a new offense in year 2 for Cam Ward. And that's not a good thing. I mean, Titans fans should be rooting for Brian Callahan to do well this year so you can get some stability, especially with a young quarterback. If you've got high hopes for him, you want him to be in the same system. You want him to understand that offense. You really want Callahan and Cam Ward to sync up this year. But no, I mean, I think given her track record, going back to the John Robinson decision, which I thought was a bad one at the time. I thought the Mike Vrabel one was a bad one also. I don't think she's going to show a lot of patience. I mean, she wants to win and win quickly. Does that mean she expects to go to the playoffs this year? No. But if this team's 1-6, 1-7, 1-8, like we're talking about, no, I don't expect her to pull a Willie Donick and show patience. I do not expect that.
Chad, a couple of University of Tennessee questions. Last week we talked about the lucrative deal that they signed with Adidas. And now Danny White, who you have praised, right, and he's done a really good job. A lot of things are going well over there. They're selling tons of tickets, but it's certainly never easy to roll out when you're raising ticket prices. What do you think about the way he's doing it, right? He's being unabashed. Hey, we're raising ticket prices and we need to pay the players. Like, how do you think that's going over as a sell?
I mean, look, I think it's okay as long as there's a demand for the tickets. But like, this is going to turn quickly if the team is bad. You know, if they get disappointing basketball this year, well, suddenly, you know, that granddad who can't afford his ticket in the 300 levels, that's, you know, complaining to the Knoxville Sentinel that people aren't paying much attention to right now. You start paying attention to that when you start putting a bad product on the court or on the field. So they've got a waiting list for season tickets right now. They're sold at the capacity for everything. I think last I checked, there's like maybe 2 games that aren't complete sellouts right now, and those are going to be sellouts by the time they get here. So if you can pack 100,000 people in the stadium at those prices, good for you. But it's also riding a bet that you're going to be nationally relevant in football, in men's basketball, in baseball with all the improvements and renovations being done and how much they're going to jack up prices in that too. So, look, it's a dangerous game. I understand why Danny White is playing the game. It is to get more money so they can give it back to the players. I think he's very smart about that. But you start hiking up, 4% season ticket price increases over and over again, at some point you could see the demand start to fall for tickets, and then you're going to have more of a problem when that happens. But, hey, if Tennessee continues to be relevant in all these sports, then he's going to get that money back in return. So I don't have a huge problem with it. But the moment it turns south, people are going to start complaining more and more.
I don't think anybody was surprised, based on what was said at the SEC Media Days, that Joey Aguilar has won the starting job. Do you have any sense, Chad, of the gap between Aguilar and the 2 young guys that have competed with him?
Yeah, so here's my big prediction that I threw out a while back. The first game that George McIntyre starts in college football will be at Vanderbilt. I really believe that this is the cost of college football right now. When Tennessee landed a 5-star quarterback at a Brentwood Academy who had ties to Vanderbilt, my first thought was, okay, now they landed the number 1 quarterback in the country in the next class. As long as Faison Brandon is in Knoxville, I think that both Jake Merklinger and George McIntyre will move on and play their college football somewhere else, which is crazy to think about, but this is the ever-evolving, shifting, rotating doors of college football quarterbacks everywhere. I think Joey Aguilar won the job, Willie, because he operates at a faster pace. He can get them moving quicker.
And he's also like 5 years older than McIntyre, right? I mean, that's a big gap.
I think his credit score is definitely higher than those guys, right? I mean, he's 25 years old. Like he's applied for some loans at some point in his life. He's about to be 25. I mean, that's kind of the Hendon Hooker effect. He was a 24-year-old.
He's older than Cam Ward.
Yeah, older than Anthony Richardson, older than a lot of guys. Anthony Richardson's going his 3rd year in the league. I think he's older than him. It's crazy. But no, I think that he functions high in that offense. He gets them moving faster, which Josh Heupel wants to do. They slowed it down the last 2 years. I think that was more of a function of the quarterback than anything else with Joe Milton and Nico. They want to get back to the speed they played at with Hendon Hooker. Joey Aguilar gives them a better chance to do it. I'll also say this about Joey Aguilar. The interception numbers are concerning. And I know that this is an offense that the way it's run, it limits turnover opportunities, interception opportunities. But I'd be a little bit worried about that if I were a Tennessee fan when I look at his interceptions. I also think he's a better athlete than the other 2 guys. I think he's going to run it a little bit more. So that's going to give them another dimension of the offense. So, no, it doesn't surprise me at all that he was named the starter.
5-3 in the league, 9-3 overall. Based on all that was thrown at them after the playoffs last year, would you sign up for that and say, yeah, that's a solid season under the circumstances? especially in the backdrop of we're asking for more money. Like that, I feel like the more money you ask for, you're almost putting pressure on yourselves to win games. But for me, a 5-3, 9-3 would be a pretty good year.
Yeah, look, I would take that in a heartbeat. I think that'd be a huge success, considering you lost your, 5-star quarterback after spring practice. I mean, I think 8-4, 5-4. That's the baseline of where I'd say, okay, pretty good season. They did well with what they had. That's not some big, disaster. I really look back at 2023 and that Joe Milton year, and I thought at the time that, okay, this kind of feels like the floor with Josh Heupel, which is a very good thing because we've seen Tennessee's floor go way lower than that. But when 8-4 and winning a bowl game is your floor, that's a good place to bottom out. And this feels like that for Tennessee. I could be wrong, could be surprised. They could be 6-6. They could be 7-5. But I think that 8-4, 9-3 range would be success for Tennessee. Willie, I think your scenario is a giant success. If they're 9-3, they're knocking on the door of the playoff. This is a team that's preseason 24th in the AP, 18th in the coaches poll. Yeah, that would be a big success. A year ago, it was all about the playoff. Going into the season, they were right on the edge of the playoffs in the preseason rankings. And if they got to that playoff, that was going to be a success. I would note that year as being successful. This year, anything at 8-4 or above would be a huge win for Tennessee. I think you finish 7-5, you kind of chalk it up and say, well, quarterback left, not much anyone can do. Anything below that, and Tennessee fans will be complaining about those ticket prices in Neyland Stadium that Danny White continues to raise. So get ready for that if they go below 7-5.
Chad, D-Mace had an interesting take on the whole Nico thing. As we get more removed from it, the dust is settled. He's at UCLA. D-Mace has a theory that Nico actually did, even though there was a lot of baloney thrown out there and a lot of rhetoric and things like that, that it was a legit thing to say that the offense, if you're trying to become a pro quarterback, the offense that Tennessee runs is not great for developing. You're not playing in an offense that's run in the NFL very much. Do you think that's a legit thing to throw out there?
Yeah, look, yeah. But, I mean, he also took $2 million to go play in the same offense that Josh Heupel's
right. I'm not even getting into that because that for sure is a big factor. But I'm just looking at I'm talking about Heupel's offense. Really, would you think people looking at that saying, if I want to go to the NFL, I'm not sure that's the best offense for me to be playing it.
If you want to negatively recruit against Josh Heupel at the quarterback position, then you're going to say, okay, show me the great, pro quarterbacks he's produced. Right. I think he coached Sam Bradford, who was the number 1 overall pick, but didn't have a great career. He's coached some guys that have been drafted. Hendon Hooker doesn't look like he's very good right now with Detroit. If you're going to negatively recruit Josh Heupel in Tennessee, you're going to say this isn't great producing NFL stars. Now, if I'm Josh Heupel in Tennessee, I say, okay, well, look at what our offense produces. It's one of the best in the country every year I've been the coach. Look, I've got no sympathy for Nico in this. I mean, if you want to try to renegotiate the offense that you signed up to play in 2.5 years in, again, after taking over $2 million to sit the bench, he wanted a raise, not factoring in that he didn't play in his first year and those checks still cashed. No, I got no sympathy for Nico in this thing. And the other thing that he was complaining about was the offensive line, right? And that's where it really started. You really started to meddle more and more. You didn't do enough to help the offensive line. We don't like this transfer from Notre Dame. We don't like the transfer from Arizona. You need to get rid of some guys and bring in guys that we know and like. Look, this is a case of a father meddling too much in his son's career. I really think it's that plain and simple. I don't think Nico's a bad kid. I think he is a guy who's going to listen to his dad no matter what. And I think his father led him astray in this whole deal. And we'll see how it turns out for him at UCLA. And maybe they're better at developing an NFL quarterback and he'll go on to a great career. But I think to try to, paint that picture of, well, the offense doesn't produce great NFL players. Well, the same offense you signed up to play in when you came out of high school. So nothing had changed with that. And I don't think anything is going to change with Josh Heupel's offense.
But you're right about that, Chad. But can you see it from this standpoint? Because now everything that is happening in NIL is pushing this, collegiate level more toward a professional level. And we all know what it is. This is a professional level. So you're getting professional type attitudes now where you're not helping me. well, you need to bring in this guy. You need to bring in this guy because I'm your franchise quarterback. Because essentially that's what it is. I'm your franchise quarterback. So you bring in this guy, this guy, and this guy. And if you don't, I'm leaving. I think that's where all of this is heading eventually, where quarterbacks are going to start dictating how you position your team, especially after they become a starter and they produce on the field enough to where they figure they can call shots or their parents can call shots.
Oh, I think it's absolutely a problem. And Nico's not going to be the last that tries to do this. And I think, Derek, that is what the huge battle is going to be for head coaches, is how do you wrestle back control from this? I mean, I coach a travel softball team, and I've got parents who try to wrestle control of the team from me, right? I mean, a 10U travel team, hey, my kids, you see that in travel ball growing up. So, of course, you're going to see it when you're talking about a $2 million franchise college football quarterback, right? So how those coaches fight that off is going to be interesting. And I'll say this for Nico, like all those things I would have taken as more valid if he just left after the Ohio State game. Yeah. In the normal window, if he would have said, look, I got pounded in that game. I don't like this offense. I don't think it's going to make me a better pro quarterback. I need to go try something different. I'm gonna transfer out. I would have not liked it, but I'd have had a lot more respect for that move than trying to play this game after, spring practice. When you're in the middle of that, with everything going on, it would have given everybody a good chance to go do something different, right? Maybe Tennessee gets in the John Mateer game, who ends up going to Oklahoma. There's a lot of different possibilities out there of what Tennessee then could have done with that money to go get a quarterback. And instead, it just kind of put everybody in a bad, uncomfortable spot. And it makes Nico look bad, which you got to hate it for him if he's just following his dad's lead, but it does make him look bad in this whole thing. So, I think that Tennessee's going to be a productive offense, but no, it's hard to say that it's the best offense to produce college, NFL quarterback talent right now based on how it's run.
Chad Withrow from Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow on Outkick has been our guest on D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick. Chad, great stuff as always. We'll chat next week.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me on. Always a good time.
Yep.
Always a pleasure. 615-737-1025. Some breaking news out of the SEC.
I can't believe what I just read.
We will touch on it coming up next. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game.
Hey, it's Derek Mason, and if you are thinking about your home's curb appeal, don't overlook your garage. It's the biggest opening in your house. That's why I always recommend all Four Seasons Garage Doors, owned by Dan Watkins, excuse me. This is a locally run, family-owned business you can trust. They've got a huge selection of garage doors. So if you're ready for a new look, this is the place to go for quality. If you need a fix, whether it's a spring replacement, opener replacement, section replacement, or any repairs, they'll get it done right. They can quiet that noisy garage door or opener that's been driving you crazy. Installation, nobody does it better. They're big enough to serve, but small enough to care. That is why so many Middle Tennesseans trust them with their homes. Check them out online at all4seasonsgarages.com. That's all four, the number 4, seasonsgarages.com.
D. Mace Vingan and Donick 1025. The game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Be listening at the end of the hour. I will give you a cue to call. We have a 4-pack of tickets to give away to see the Mexican national team face off against Korea Republic at Geodis Park on Tuesday, September 9th. So be listening at the end of this hour. I'll give you the cue to call at 615-737-1025, and you can win that 4-pack of tickets. But we have breaking news out of the SEC. The SEC has announced that it will implement a 9-game football schedule beginning in 2026. Greg Sankey, SEC commissioner, is quoted as saying, adding a 9th SEC game underscores our university's commitment to delivering the most competitive football schedule in the nation. This format protects rivalries, increases competitive balance, and paired with our requirement to play an additional power opponent, ensures SEC teams are well prepared to compete and succeed in the college football playoff. Under the new format, each school will play 3 annual opponents focused on maintaining many traditional rivalries. The SEC will continue with a single standings non-divisional structure. Each team's remaining 6 games will rotate among the remaining conference schools, and each team will face every other SEC program at least once every 2 years and every opponent home and away in 4 years. But here's the big thing that upset Willie Donick. And we have one texter, Ben, saying, keep Willie from throwing stuff when you mention this.
I got nothing in my hands.
One texter says SEC teams are required to schedule at least one additional high-quality non-conference opponent from the ACC, Big 10, Big 12, or Notre Dame each season. Willie, your hands are free.
My hands are free.
Your thoughts?
I'm under control, at least for now, but I'm not happy about that. Like there's two questions for me when I read that. And this is the first I've seen the details of it. So it's got to settle. But I wonder what this does or doesn't do to the theory of the SEC is going to beat each other up and they're going to decrease their chances of winning the national championship out of their league year in and year out because there's so many good teams. It's the deepest league. It's got it's got as much money. The Big Ten is going to wrestle with this as well. But as of now, the SEC is deeper than the Big Ten. So there's more of an immediate issue of you're going to beat each other up. I think Greg Sankey must have a notion that the traditional way that we allow teams in as at-larges is a lot more one-loss than people would like to think. It's a lot less strength of schedule. Remember the passionate move by D. Mace's coach last year, Nick Saban, saying, are we not looking at the strength of schedule? Remember the debate we had last year with SMU when you really compared SMU's schedule to Alabama's? Was it really even a comparison? But there's politics involved. Indiana's schedule also did not measure up to Alabama's schedule or South Carolina for that matter. And all you could conclude was, well, the SEC beat each other up. Is that going to change? What does Greg Sankey know about that? That's the league-wide thing. From Vanderbilt's perspective, a program that's trying to build in a professional league, and look, the academic restrictions and things like that, they have loosened those up a lot. I'm not as worried about that, but as you try to build, now you're telling me, right, let's take this year's schedule, which is considered the second, from the SEC media days, the second toughest schedule in the country. They go to Virginia Tech as their one non-conference power school that they're playing. So if I'm Clark Lee, I'm sitting there and Greg Sankey's telling me the changes that are coming. Okay, Clark, here's the first thing we're going to do. We're going to go to 9 games. If I'm Clark Lee, I'm like, all right, so instead of playing Virginia Tech, I'll play another team in our league. Okay, I can live with that. And Greg Sankey says, oh, no, Clark. You still have to, in your other 3 games, play another team. You still have to play a team from a Power 4 in addition to the 9 conference games. Now, and Vanderbilt is not the only team, I think, that fits in this category. There's a few others that I think would really like to keep it at 8 or at least not have this caveat. We're going 9, and you still have to schedule the team from a Power 4. Are we still having bowl games? Is it still you got to win 6 games to get to a bowl game? These are the questions I would have, because I think you can easily schedule yourself in that league with that schedule. You could end up being 5-7, be a really good team, but have such a tough schedule, you don't make it to a bowl game. And so I don't like we gotta think about that as we move forward. So I don't like this move on the surface until I know more.
Well, this ain't about bowl games. This is about playoff.
It's about money.
games.
It's about TV money.
Yeah,
is what it is.
but
satisfying the networks
yeah.
who've been. They don't want to watch Samford play Alabama in November, which is what happens a lot of times.
And I get that, but I don't think this has anything to do with these other bowl games that we may not be able to go to. No, everything is geared toward these playoff games. And what happened last year, I think the SEC doesn't want to happen again, where these other teams that are getting in that schedule don't look like theirs, and end up benefiting. There we go. From it. To whereas, listen, Nick Saban has already said it. This is the toughest league in all of college football. And I believe it is. Even though the Big Ten has won the last 2 championships, I do believe the SEC from top to bottom is the toughest league. So if that's the case, and majority of our teams we believe are going to be ranked in the top 15, why not go to a 9-game season? Because now there's no, if we really want to settle in on a strength of schedule and we got to go by it, then you have to take into account my team played an extra game against a top 10 opponent.
Right.
And we had to play another game against another top 15 or 25 opponent. So if we lose one of them, say if we lose outside of the SEC, well, since we're playing that extra SEC game, that probably nullifies that game because it's like, okay, yeah, we may have lost to 18, Clemson. Well, we came back and we beat number 4, Georgia.
I get that. But here are a couple things. When you say it's not about bowl games, it's definitely not for the teams.
Not about those
trying to make
bowl
the playoffs.
games.
For the teams trying to make the playoffs, I agree, right? But for the next 5 or 6 teams in the league that don't make the playoffs, it is about bowl games. You can at least need to have something next to your record. Say, we went to a bowl game. Until the system changes, I'm assuming that the bowl games are still going to be in there. You got to have ways to get to bowl game. And here's the other thing. Forget about my Vanderbilt perspective. Having watched Vanderbilt's history for a while, I think that's going to be a really tough road. But think about it. Let's take Tennessee or South Carolina or Ole Miss, teams that were right there last year. Now, you're telling me I can't schedule the cupcake now I got to play a 9th conference game.
Because
that's going to be a battle. That's going to be another battle where I got to play a league team. I can't take a week off and schedule Samford, which Nick Saban did. Not specifically Samford, but a weaker opponent late in the season where you can rest some guys. You can reasonably say, we're probably going to blow these guys out. But you're telling me you got to play 9 conference games and another tough non-conference game and then go win 4 playoff games? You talk about a war of attrition. That is going to have a big effect on the roster. They're going to beat each other up.
But the SEC believes they are the best conference.
Of course they do, but they're not. Are they thinking about this, though?
They don't care about playing.
Did they ask the coaches?
They don't care about playing the Big Ten's 5th-ranked team.
I cannot imagine the coaches
team.
wanted this. I can't imagine a lot of the coaches did not say, "Wait a minute, man, you're asking me to play 12 battles. I maybe get 2 cream puffs. I got 10 battles out of 12, and then I got to go win 4 playoff games. Why not I just go to the NFL?"
To me, Sankey must see something coming down the pipe where he's adding another game to the already daunting schedule of an SEC team, and he's saying you got to play a top-notch team out of conference. Only reason I would be doing that is because something's coming down the pipeline, and I want to make sure my conference is ahead of it. So whatever it is, because it seems like it should backfire on them, right? But I don't think this is going to backfire on them. I think it's going to help them.
I think the Big Ten has been pushing for them. Remember, they've been needling the SEC for years. Right? We play 9. When are you guys going to play 9? Everybody should play 9. Why don't you guys play 9?
And that's why the Big Ten was able to get Indiana in.
615-737-1025. Your reaction, the SEC within the past 36 minutes. So basically right at 4 o'clock. The SEC announced that it will implement a 9-game conference football schedule beginning in 2026. Your reaction, 615-737-1025. 1025. We are live at First Horizon Park. The Nashville Sounds host the Louisville Bats. First pitch at 6:35 on Throwback Thursday here at the ballpark. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 the game. D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 1025. The game, Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. We are live at First Horizon Park. Sounds and Louisville Bats tonight at 6:35. Throwback Thursday here at the ballpark. Great tickets are still available, so come on out. Feels nice out here.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It's not sweltering. I'm not sweating like Roger Ebert. I'm feeling good.
I jogged at noon yesterday because it was less than 90 degrees. I felt good.
Oh, okay.
At high noon, like my high school baseball coach Bob King said, "When athletes rise." we play, as we were getting ready to play a Saturday game at noon in our all black uniforms. We were black and orange, and I said, "Black uniforms in the heat, high noon." I'm thinking to myself, he goes, "That's when athletes rise." But this is you don't have to worry about the heat tonight. This is beautiful.
Gorgeous,
good
gorgeous,
baseball weather.
gorgeous night. So if you need something to do tonight, come on out to First Horizon Park. First pitch is at 6:35. All right. The big news announced by the SEC within the past hour. SEC is going to implement a 9-game conference football schedule in 2026. Here are the particulars. Each school will play 3 annual opponents focused on maintaining many traditional rivalries. Each team's remaining 6 games will rotate among the remaining conference schools. Each team will face every other SEC program at least once every 2 years and every opponent home and away in 4 years. But the big one that irked one Willie Donick, SEC teams are required to schedule at least one additional high-quality non-conference opponent from the ACC, Big 10, Big 12, or Notre Dame. We have some reaction on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. John says, Vanderbilt, if you don't want to play an SEC schedule, move to the OVC.
I figured it would be a non-Vanderbilt fan that was going to throw that at me.
Chad on our text line says, Vandy has no problem taking up a spot in the SEC and getting all of those benefits now, but now it's a problem to play in the league?
Willie, you open this can of worms.
I've been hearing this for 40 years. They weren't really saying that last year when they played Alabama, were they? Pull them out of the league. But yeah, I mean that's look. They're gonna have that tag, but I do think that it's not just Vanderbilt's desire to try to continue to move up the steps. James Franklin used to preach this a lot as he was building. That he said, if you're not playing in the playoffs, and now the whole thing is going to open up now a 16-team playoff, right? This is going to reopen and probably give an easier pathway towards 16. But 16 out of 120-something teams, and how many Power Fives or Power Fours are there? You add them all up. 60?
Yeah.
There's still a lot of teams that are still trying to define their season as a success as a non-playoff team. And Vanderbilt most years, like I know their desire is to make the playoffs, and Clark Lee fully believes they'll get there. If you watch any given Saturday, he believes they can get there. But in the meantime, you're trying to build towards that. And this was James Franklin's thing. There's no reward for strength of schedule or penalty for strength of schedule. So in the meantime, you should be able to schedule the non-conference games that you want for your program. What's best for your program at the time, if that's what you want to do. So that's all I'm saying. And I would ask a Tennessee fan or an Alabama fan or ones that are perennial teams that have this sight set on the playoffs. Does this pathway make it easier for you to win a national championship or harder? I would argue it's harder. Because of the league.
I don't think it's going to make it harder because everybody still believes the SEC is the dominant conference. So I don't think it's going to make it harder. I think it's going to be the same as it was last year. Again, a lot of this, and you said it, Willie, a lot of this has to do with now that I'm giving you hundreds of millions, even billions, of dollars on college football. I want to see a good game every week. I don't want Alabama versus Southwest North Louisiana State Tuskegee. I don't want that.
Hey,
5 schools in one.
They are a power in the lower conferences, okay?
But they don't want to see that. The networks don't want to see that. They want to see if I'm paying you top dollar, I want to see top product every week.
That's a factor in this.
So now that you got to go to 9 games and a top 25, what is it? A top 25,
a Power 4 team.
Power 4 team.
Yeah.
More than likely, you should have better games. There shouldn't be a down week because there are so many down weeks, especially in college football, the first week of the season.
Right.
Week 0.
Right.
They called it week 0 because
this is a win for the fans. There's no question this is a win for the fans.
It's a win for the fans. And ultimately, I think what it boils down to is it's just going to be 2 leagues or 3, and they're all going to be doing the same thing, playing nine conference games and playing, Power 3 teams within their circle. That's what they're going to be doing.
One texter says, I love it. And that's coming from a UT fan. I love college football and I love the SEC. I get where Willie is coming from, but if you think and act like the big dog, you better be able to back it up. This just means more great football games, and whoever is complaining about it is soft.
Willie, they call
What are
you
you trying
soft.
to say?
No, but
You're saying
that's
I'm
why,
soft?
but that's why the Big Ten did it first, going to that extra game within the Big Ten. The SEC was going to eventually get to a point because once the money start getting larger, as far as television deals, you were going to have to play better games. I didn't want to see, week 10 and Georgia playing St. Augustine, and they beat them, 100-5 or 100-7, whatever it is. Nobody wants to see that anymore.
That's true. And that was a UT fan that just texted, I think he said.
Yes.
That was more of the Big Ten mentality.
Mhm.
But the Big Ten, I'm sorry, I am an SEC snob. It's more top heavy. There's more teams
be
next
fair,
Big
year.
Ten
The
now.
5 to 7 teams on the there's more teams, period. There's 18 teams.
Yeah.
The last 7 or 8 are usually not that great.
By the way, one texter says, Derek, I'm offended. I am a proud graduate of Southwestern Central Louisiana Tech at Tuskegee. By the way,
I am sorry. I am so
I don't
sorry.
think Tuskegee is in Louisiana,
I know.
by the way.
I believe so.
One other
This
thing.
would be a fictitious school.
Yes.
Exactly.
One other thing to note,
Online classes only.
I believe this came out yesterday. The College Football Playoff Committee announced changes to the schedule strength metric. Their quote is, the current schedule strength metric has been adjusted to apply greater weight to games against strong opponents. An additional metric, record strength, has been added to the selection committee's analysis to go beyond the team's schedule strength to assess how a team performed against that schedule. This metric rewards teams defeating high-quality opponents while minimizing the penalty for losing to such a team. Conversely, these changes will provide minimal reward for defeating a lower-quality opponent while imposing a greater penalty.
I
for
told you
losing to
Sankey
such a
saw
team.
something. He
Greg
saw it.
Sankey was not going to move forward with
Exactly.
this without that
Absolutely.
assurance. There's no doubt. But now you know who suffers, and I don't like seeing this, is the non-Power 4 teams that are going to rack up records of 12-1 or 13-0 sometimes, but they won't have the big win, and they're not going to grade out in that metric very well, and it's not their fault, right? And the ACC is probably going to go, ooh, if our league is weak, kind of like it's been, a little top-heavy, right? It's Clemson and Florida State and everybody else, which can happen in a given year.
Last year it was SMU.
Right, SMU was the team trying to jump up there.
Yeah.
They would have been penalized in this thing, and so would Indiana.
One texter says, the problem with that is the SEC has more competition than the two other leagues combined. The Big Ten benefits the most because they only have 3 good programs. My argument would be strength of schedule matter.
Whoa,
Wait,
damn you. I take offense to that.
Struck a chord with D-Mace on that one.
See why y'all had to throw. I don't want to catch no strays.
D-Mace was
here.
cruising along. He was feeling
Exactly.
good. He was smiling,
I'm smiling.
ribbing me, and all of a sudden his tone changed right
To
there.
be fair, you did take a shot at the proud alums of Southwestern Central Louisiana Tech
Tuskegee.
at Tuskegee. So you got your comeuppance, is what I think. One texter says the SEC isn't the dominant conference. They didn't make the college football playoff national championship game 2 years in a row.
Yeah, you got a point. Those are facts.
Yeah.
Dustin from Hopkinsville. Shout
They beat
out
each
to
other up.
Hopkinsville. Quit crying. Become a power team. You make your own way.
Pull yourself by your own bootstraps. Let's go. I like that.
Matt says the SEC has traditionally been has had everyone else's number. So what happens when these top tier programs start getting 2 or 3 losses?
Well, that's going to
Yeah.
test this thing you just read about the strength of schedule, the
and
metric.
that's when it would come
a little
in,
more
yeah.
like the NCAA basketball tournament
Yes.
committee.
Yes.
Because they go heavy, the basketball. They go heavy on power.
Oh yeah, if your record
yes.
record is 23-7, that doesn't just get you
Exactly.
in, right? A team that's 19-14 with a much tougher schedule
They'll get
gets
in
in every
heavy.
time.
Yeah.
One texter says Power 4 teams really shouldn't be playing McGillicuddy State, but definitely not in last October and beyond. Alabama has 2 bye weeks this season. If they still do that, then they'll still get a chance to rest players late in the season.
They don't care about the Power 4 teams. It's just about those teams that are the SEC, the ACC, the Big 10, and the Big 12.
Well, also let's look at this nuance that we didn't mention yet. Remember last year, there's a little bit of talk of, hey, if you don't make the SEC championship game, it's really not the worst thing if you know you're going to be in the playoffs. And now that really is going to come up, right? Because you're going to play 12 regular season games, 9 of which are conference games, plus a tough non-conference. The two teams that come out into the SEC championship game got to play each other in that game. So there's 13 games. Then if it's 16 teams, they got to win 4 playoff games. So how many games is that?
It's professional
That's
leagues,
that's
Willie.
the NFL.
This is the NFL.
That's a big jump.
But then
Your pathway to a championship is radically different than it was before.
Well, does it take away the sort of the importance of the SEC championship game then?
Well, okay, look what happened in the SEC championship game last year. Carson Beck got hurt. That threw Georgia's season
exactly
in a different direction. And their backup wasn't good enough to take them all the way through a 3-game or 4. I forget if they got a bye or not, but they obviously got beat in the playoffs by Notre Dame. And you could argue if they had Carson Beck, they would have had a better chance of beating Notre Dame.
Another thing that was mentioned by the CFP Management Committee, the membership panel also reviewed the movement of idle teams from the penultimate to final ranking. Last year, for example, South Carolina was idle during conference championship weekend and dropped a spot on selection day, even though its final resume had been enhanced by a regular season win against ACC champion Clemson. The Tigers jumped 1 spot to 16th. The selection committee reaffirmed that movement in the final week should be evidence-based and did not recommend creating a formal policy prohibiting such movement.
So that won't hurt you any longer. If you're idle for that last week, it shouldn't hurt you. Which is
the recency bias of everybody's playing. Clemson gets a huge win right after South Carolina beat them, but South Carolina probably didn't get the full shine of that. It kind of wore off.
One texter says, does this new format not mean that the SEC further cannibalizes itself?
That's what I said.
I mean, they will, but
that's a good word, though. That's what we need. By the way, the vocab bell needs to travel with the show. What's up with that?
I'm sorry. We'll be back in studio tomorrow.
But shouldn't that, based upon what you said, shouldn't that enhance your ability, because now they're going by strength of schedule? Shouldn't that enhance your ability?
You're not going to be dinged
it?
By losing games to high quality opponents,
right?
Yeah.
Well, like the loser of the Ohio State Texas game, to start the season. That, in theory, that will not penalize the loser of that game.
Well, it shouldn't penalize them anyway. It's the first game of the season, even under the old format.
Right.
It shouldn't.
615-737-1025. We will continue to take your thoughts on the SEC's decision to move to 9 conference games starting next season in football. 615-737-1025. All right, I promised to give away, so here it is. Be caller number 3, 615-737-1025, and you will win a 4-pack of tickets to see the Mexican national team face off against Korea Republic at Geodis Park on Tuesday, September 9th. Caller number 3 wins a 4-pack of tickets to see the Mexican national team face off against Korea Republic, Geodis Park, Tuesday, September 9th. We are live at First Horizon Park. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game.
Hey, this is Derek Mason, and you heard me tell you about Dr. Lodge and his staff over at Cool Springs MD for some time. If you set out to lose weight, chances are it's not your first time setting a resolution to shed some extra pounds only to face disappointment. But I got some good news, because at Cool Springs MD, Dr. Lodge and his team understands the frustration of this cycle, and that is why they offer a different approach to weight loss. Their comprehensive weight loss program is led by Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and addresses the root cause of weight gain with tailored nutrition, exercise, blood test supplements, and more. They will customize a program specific to you and you only. You know how I know? Because they did it for yours truly. They did it for me, and I have dropped weight, people. I think I look good. I hope I look good. But anyway, connect with Dr. Lodge at CoolSpringsMD.com today to schedule your appointment for a personalized weight loss plan just for you. That's Cool Springs MD, where your weight loss journey becomes a success story.
D. Mace Finnegan and Donick 1025, The Game, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. Willie, Derek, and I are live from First Horizon Park. Sounds and Louisville Bats tonight at 6:35. Throwback Thursday here at First Horizon Park. Players are warming up on the field. It is a beautiful night. You will not melt if you come to the football game, to the baseball game tonight. It is almost football season.
Yes.
But you will not melt if you come to the baseball game tonight. It's a nice evening. If you're looking for something to do, Sounds and Louisville Bats tonight at 6:35.
It's so interesting. I don't know if they're probably just about to open the gates if they haven't already. Right now, in the right field corner, the Bats, are all wearing all kinds of different shirts and not uniform at all, right?
No.
The Louisville Bats are the Reds, AAA.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know that was a AAA. Some of them are not wearing socks, some are wearing shorts, and they're playing like a wiffle ball or something, some version of wiffle ball in the right field corner, almost like it was a fun little thing you would do at recess. It's really interesting. I've never seen that before.
I mean, we used to do our own little things. Well, we used to.
But would you know that all those guys are on the same
Nah,
team
you wouldn't think they were.
and playing a AAA baseball game tonight in about an hour?
It's
crazy.
interesting to see, like, before the game, what athletes do. I know what I used to do or what my teammates used to do, but then you go to other sports, you're like, man, they do some of the same stuff. We do little silly stuff, just kid stuff. You know,
some of them aren't even wearing shoes or socks.
Yeah, you're right.
Run around the outfield.
That is the best grass to walk barefooted on. Oh my good, barefoot.
Oh, it's awesome.
Excuse me.
It looks like something you throw together in your neighborhood, which ironically kids don't do as much of anymore. Like walk around to the different places in your neighborhood and get a pickup game going.
Hey man,
people just play video games.
We should
now.
start that up. Start that up.
Let's bring that back.
Let's
no offense, Adam. I know you love the
game.
Let's
bring back what you call.
I'm not as much of a gamer now as I used to be.
The Sandlot.
Yeah, Sandlot.
Yeah.
We need to bring back Sandlot.
These guys
man.
look like they're right out of the Sandlot.
Exactly.
$5 to scream. You're killing me, Smalls.
Is there a ham porter over there?
Is it you're killing me, Smalls, or Smalls you're killing me?
You're killing me, Smalls.
You know what it was originally? Because I just heard this. It was the other way around originally. They had wrote it the other way around, but the guy ended up saying it.
Ham porter.
Yeah, he ended up saying it just like that, so they left it. But it was supposed to be worded another way. A little tidbit.
And the rest is history.
Yes.
So we touched on this a little bit with Chad Withrow in the 4 o'clock hour. But if there was one word we could use to describe the state of the Tennessee Titans in recent years, it would be disorder. There's been a lot of upheaval in the Tennessee Titans organization, to say the least, in recent years. John Robinson, out. Mike Vrabel, out. Rand Carthon, out. And the Titans seem, I emphasize that word, seem committed to finding continuity. We touched on the story earlier this week, written by our friend Teron Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter, and ESPN national reporter, Jeremy Fowler. And within that story, they reported, quote, there was consideration given to completely cleaning house and sending Brian Callahan on his way, along with Rand Carthon, multiple Titan sources confirmed to ESPN. Callahan and Carthon had a close relationship, and having the number 1 pick gave Tennessee an opportunity to bring in a new GM, coach, and rookie quarterback at the same time. But the front office took an honest look at the talent on the roster and factored that into Callahan's record in his first season. The front office didn't lose sight of Callahan being one of the league's in-demand coaching candidates when the Titans hired him. Again, not a surprise that the Titans considered firing Brian Callahan at the end of the season. But here is my question to Willie and Derek and all of you at 615-737-1025. Can we trust the Titans after there has been so much upheaval? And after you answer this question, Easton Freeze of A to Z Sports wrote a good story today. Apparently, Dave Ziegler, the new Titans assistant general manager, who himself was an NFL general manager with the Raiders, I suppose during this week and a half long trip the Titans went on, Ziegler held a powwow of sorts with the reporters who traveled to Tampa and Atlanta, and he had some interesting quotes. But here's my question for all of you and to Willie and Derek, because I feel a certain way about it. Although the Titans seem committed to finding continuity, and you have heard Cam Ward, we talked about it. He, at the podium, I believe it was after one of the Atlanta joint practices, I want to say, preached continuity, talked about how the best quarterbacks in the NFL, they have coaches that stick with them. The organization sticks with them. He stumped for Brian Callahan. But I think I asked this question that day. Are the leaders of the Tennessee Titans listening? And can we trust them to actually stick to some continuity?
I think history shows that you have to be skeptical. 3 consecutive years of major changes in either the coach or the GM. And I would say it takes a group of secure, knowledgeable people who think. They use the term collective, collaboration, all of these things. But you truly find out when you get into these situations. As Chad sort of threw some zingers at me, I tend to be more patient than some. I try to look past the easy solution of, hey, just change it. They don't know what they're doing. Get another guy in there. I think that is hardest when you are struggling. And I do think they're probably likely going to face that decision, especially if they get off to a bad start. And you looked at one prognostication, Connor Orr, who predicts every game. He had them 0-4,
starting
and
0-4 and 1-8 going into the bye.
And you know that.
But they lost to Mike Vrabel and the Patriots.
Right. You know that if you want to stay secure and stay with the continuity project, that's going to be tough sledding, and you're going to have to fight through a lot of noise if that happens. And that's from the top all the way down. But as Brian Callahan pointed out, when he was in Cincinnati and Zach Taylor was the coach, they had Joe Burrow. They were 1-10. But he said we could see the makings of something good. We knew it was going to turn. And to their credit, the Bengals were patient enough to see it turn, and they're now reaping the rewards of the continuity that they put around Joe Burrow. That's why Brian Callahan has this job.
I think the Titans need to look at their own history, for one. Don't look at nobody else's history. Don't look at the NFL history. Just look at your own history. When you've been patient with a coach, GM, when you've stuck in there, you've come out on a good end. You've come out with some success, continued success. There were some bad seasons there, but you've come out with continued success. When you look to move on from a coach after 1 or 2 years, you're not going to have any success or any continuity. That's the new word now, continuity. You can go back to 97 and 06 when Floyd and Jeff were together. They had really good seasons together. They had continuity. They had a team built that stayed together for a good minute. You know, we all knew what was expected of us every day we walked in that door from 97 to 04. There wasn't a change in coaches. There wasn't a change in GMs. They knew who we were. We knew who they were. We knew what to expect from them. They knew what to expect from us. Since then, the only other time they got that is with John Robinson and Mike Vrabel. Any other time they haven't. Learn from your own history. When you stick with a guy and give a guy an opportunity, once you get the roster the way it's supposed to be, you will reap the rewards. The minute you start, changing things at the blow of the wind, you're not going to have any success at all. You don't have to look at the NFL's history. Look at your own history. That's what the Titans need to do. So, yeah, I mean, listen, he's stuck in a bad situation, meaning Brian Callahan, because he had a horrible year right before they drafted their quarterback number 1. And if you don't get that quarterback straight in that next following year, or you don't show progress in that next following year, what tends to happen to everybody? You get canned. They fire you. Titans, you shouldn't think like that. Try to build the new word, continuity here. Try to build some continuity within your coaching staff, within the building. Try to build that first, and then I believe the wins will come. But if Brian Callahan, because they haven't said what constitutes a successful season, they hadn't said record or anything. They want development. Yes, I get that. But what if he wins 5 games, 6 games. Quarterbacks like he's a development, or he wins 4 games because the roster is still not where it needs to be. What are you going to do then? Are you going to fire him, or are you going to give him another opportunity?
So Dave Ziegler, Titans assistant GM, whose own tenure as a real GM in the NFL did not last very long. I believe he made it into his second season before being fired by the Raiders. He met with reporters during the Titans' time in Atlanta. This is according to Easton Freeze of A to Z Sports. And here's a quote from Ziegler. Quote, continuity with your personnel department and your coaching staff, and the continuity of the coaching staff and the players. When you look at most of the successful organizations, there's a level of that, right? So I think it's really important. You have to understand on the personnel side what each cook has to cook with. How good of a meal can they cook with what they have? So I think you have to have expectations on what you're looking for and what the growth needs to be. But when you look at the teams that have had long-term success, there's a lot of continuity with the coaching staff. So that's the ideal goal. And so we'll measure that by how these guys grow and how they improve. And there's a level of expectation, I think, that needs to be appropriate based on what they have in their room too.
And they don't have, listen, the Titans, they have gotten better, I think, personnel-wise, but that's at the top. They haven't gotten better underneath the surface where they need to get better in order to sustain winnable seasons. That's what they need to do. But I mean, he wasn't handed a good roster. And unfortunately, he may have to pay for that. But if you're looking to establish something here, if you're looking to hopefully develop your quarterback, if the marriage between your head coach and quarterback seems to be working, I think you need to lean on that more than the first year win record or his second year. But I'm saying the Cam Ward's first year win record. If you're really in this for the long haul, let's see how he develops him this first year and then go from there.
Do you think you could have a situation like in the movie Hoosiers where Jimmy Chitwood stands up for Gene Hackman and says, I play, coach stays. He goes, I go. Do you think Cam Ward would do that for Brian Callahan? Even if they're struggling, everybody's like, yeah, we got to get Cam, a real coach. And Cam goes up in front of, they have to take the revote to get Coach Hackman back in there.
You're going to say, that's my coach, man. That's my coach.
I mean, Cam Ward stuck his neck out for Brian Callahan.
Well, he kind of laid the groundwork for it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but the unfortunate part about that, as I said,
it's not his call.
It's not his call.
It's not his call.
That's
not
the
his
thing.
call. So, you may think Brian is a good guy developing you, but if Amy and Brinkert and Borgonzi don't see it that way, then what do you do?
More from Ziegler, and here's a quote that was in Teron Davenport and Jeremy Fowler's story that Willie you keyed in on. More from Dave Ziegler. Quote, there's a saying that organizations fail quarterbacks more than quarterbacks fail themselves. And you're seeing a kind of rebirth of Sam Darnold, right? A rebirth of Baker Mayfield. Guys that went in and had a couple of different coordinators in 2 to 3 years, didn't have continuity on the offensive line, got hit a lot. And I always make the comparison of when a quarterback comes in and you start to make changes, the first year they're learning Spanish, 101. You change the OC or the head coach, now they're learning French. And then you do it again, now they're learning Italian. And they've never had a chance. They can't speak any of it because they've never had the chance to actually really integrate themselves with the language, if you will, or the playbook in the offensive system.
That would be what I would pound into the top, right? It doesn't always resonate. Peyton Manning said almost exactly the same thing. Recently, we just played a clip that he had, and he's not alone. That's a theory that's been out there for a long time, but yet people still do what they do.
That's why I said
they go the opposite.
That's what I said yesterday. Yeah, y'all saw Anthony Richardson. Everybody saw the story. Everybody know what, but they still gonna draft a guy like Anthony Richardson in about 2 or 3 more years. But you can always you can go back to Young. He started off in Tampa. It didn't work in Tampa. He goes to San Francisco, and all of a sudden he's a new man, a new quarterback. He wins the Super Bowl MVP. Now he's in the Hall of Fame. Having that coach and that stability and the right guy at the helm means the world for the quarterback. You can have all the tools and everything else, but if you keep on swapping guys out, in and out, that's supposed to be the leader, the head of the team, I mean, the head coach, you're not going to have any success with your quarterback. It's been proven.
Another quote from Dave Ziegler, Titans assistant GM. Quote, this position, meaning quarterback, is one of the hardest positions to play in sports, and it's a tough position to play. And so in an ideal world, that continuity can be very impactful on a quarterback's level of success. Josh Allen's a good example. He had Brian Daboll for the first 4 years of his career, and you saw a lot of growth in Josh Allen from where he started. And I thought that continuity, to me, can be really, really
Well,
important.
hell, you go to Lamar Jackson. They kept, even though the offense that, who was the offensive coordinator then with Lamar Jackson his first couple of years? He ended up going to, he's in San Diego now. God, why am I forgetting his name?
I'll find it for you.
But anyway,
Continue.
he was the coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens for a few years.
Marty Morningweg?
No, not Morningweg.
Greg Roman.
Yeah, Greg Roman. Greg
He
Roman.
sucks.
Yeah. but no. What I'm saying is this. Nobody really liked Greg Roman's offense after a while. But at the beginning, what was it doing? Developing Lamar Jackson into a guy that you wanted to use the talent that he had to ultimately win games while he was developing as a quarterback. And what happened? You did those things, and then it got to a point where he couldn't. Greg Roman couldn't help take that next step. So what did they do? They went and got a guy that was more pass oriented for Lamar Jackson, and look what has happened. So even if we may not think the play calling is the best, if there's continuity, you're gonna find a way to win if you got the talent. Point blank. And the Titans haven't been able to do that because they keep on switching coaches like they change their underwear.
Jeff on our text line says they have to end the cycle. You can't keep firing GM, then coach, then another GM, then another coach. If they fire Callahan, if they absolutely must fire one, though, then all of Brink Gonzahan needs to go and start fresh. That's the combination of Chad Brinker, Mike Borgonzi, and Brian Callahan. Brink Gonzahan. Rolls off the tongue, Jeff. I prefer the Gonzi scheme myself.
I think that's better.
But Brink Gonzahan.
Yo, I like that. The first and last name, Brink Gonzahan.
Brink Gonzahan. Brink Gonzahan. 615-737-1025.
That sounds like a disease.
No.
It sounds more
Brink
like
Gonzahan.
it sounds like one
disorder.
of those prescription medications that you see the commercials for.
It does. Yeah.
Consult your doctor before taking Brink Gonzahan. 615, thank you, 737-1025. Your reaction to that. The Titans seem committed to finding continuity, but we know how the Titans have been. Can we trust them after there has been so much upheaval? 615-737-1025. We will take your reaction. Coming up next, we are live from First Horizon Park, Sounds and Louisville Bats tonight at 6:35 right here at the ballpark. Throwback Thursday. Great seats are still available. It's a beautiful night. Come watch some baseball. First pitch is in roughly an hour and 15 minutes. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game.
Hey, just a reminder, as we've been telling you all week, you got to call right now if you are trapped in a high-rate mortgage right now. Maybe you got stuck with it. You're like, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. Boy, that's a high interest rate. Right now, Loan Pronto's rate reduction home loan program is a streamlined, low-cost way to slash your house payments by hundreds of dollars a month. Lock in a fixed rate as low as 4.99 APR and close in as little as 2 weeks. So if you got caught in that tough gap where you were forced to take a higher rate mortgage, call now because these rates won't last forever. Call Loan Pronto at 615-499-5780 or visit loanpronto.com. Lock in that new low rate. Skip the next 2 house payments. So you're going to be in great shape. Call 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender. NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval. NMLS consumeraccess.org.
people need to understand that when you take a quarterback number 1 overall, it's instantly stacked against your coach.
Yep.
And whoever's in that seat, it is instantly bad for them. And like I went back and I looked. So from 2000, there's been 18 quarterbacks taken number 1 overall. I think of those 18, 6 coaches survived it and thrived, and they were all really good coaches. I'm running short here. I'll run through the list real quick with you. Caleb Williams, Matt Eberflus, failure. Bryce Young, Frank Reich, failure. Trevor Lawrence, Urban Meyer, failure. Kyler Murray, Cliff Kingsbury, failure. Baker Mayfield, Hugh Jackson, failure. Jared Goff, Jeff Fisher, failure. Jameis Winston, Lovie Smith, failure. Sam Bradford, Steve Spagnuolo, failure. Michael Vick, Dan Reeves, failure. Jamarcus Russell, Lane Kiffin, failure. Alex Smith, Mike Nolan, stuck around for a few years, but to no success. I think it qualifies as a failure. David Carr, Dom Capers, stuck around as well for a few years. I think it was a failure. They never had any winning seasons. The 6 that made it, Joe Burrow, Zach Taylor, Andrew Luck, Chuck Pagano, Cam Newton, Ron Rivera, Matthew Stafford, Jim Schwartz, Eli Manning, Tom Coughlin, Carson Palmer, Marvin Lewis.
Jeez.
Those 6 quarterbacks are either Hall of Famers or they're at least guys that we're like, they might not make the Hall of Fame, but they were pretty dang good.
That was Charles Robinson on with Robbie and Rex Road yesterday.
Now, we've pounded this theme
Yes.
day in and day
Yes.
out, week in and week out, right? But if they are 1-6, do you think it's going to keep people from going, we got to get the coach out of there?
No, it's not.
No,
It's not going to stop it, right? You could tell them till you're blue in the face all these numbers that we're doing, but that's what's ahead of them.
Let's go to Bruce on our phone line, driven by Wilson County, Hyundai.com. Bruce, thank you for waiting. Please go ahead.
My pleasure. Good afternoon. Hello, Derek. Hello, Willie. And hello to the other guy.
Oh, thank you.
I wanted to speak really not specifically about the Callahan situation, but more about the concept of coaching churn. And I'll tell you why. I grew up in Western Pennsylvania, and I went to Penn State. I'm 63 years old. If you look at the past 60 years, you're hard-pressed to find an NFL team that's had more success than the Steelers, and you're hard-pressed to find a college team that's had more success than Penn State. In my lifetime, they have both had 3 coaches. The Steelers had Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, Mike Tomlin, all of whom won a Super Bowl. Penn State's had Joe Paterno, Bill O'Brien, James Franklin. And I don't think that's an accident. When you change the coach, especially in college, you're not just changing philosophy. You're changing the strength coach who has the best relationship with the players. You're changing recruiting relationships. You're changing everything. And this constant coaching churn, I don't think, is a recipe for success.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you, Bruce.
Great perspective.
Yeah, I mean, and you can even go, listen, New England, they had their success. They had a long run, 20-year run with the same coach, the same quarterback. It worked out. Listen, they never had any bad seasons in between that, or maybe one that they didn't make the playoffs, or 2. But there's something to, but you got to know that he's the right coach, because don't keep a coach just because you believe it creates continuity. Keep the coach because you feel he's the right coach to develop your quarterback. That's why, to me, the record means nothing at all. I want to see if the quarterback that they drafted, Cam Ward, can Brian Callahan show development in Cam Ward to a point where, okay, we got our solution at quarterback. It may not, the season may not be great, but we find our solution at quarterback. Cincinnati did the same thing. That's why they kept Zach Taylor, because they found their solution at the quarterback position and they didn't want to change it, even though he's had losing seasons in the midst of all of it.
Is Bruce unaware that my name is on the show? It's on the show, guys.
I felt like that was an intentional.
I thought that was
That was a
intentional
bit
too.
That was a bit.
I think
Okay.
it was-
I think it was a bit.
Okay.
Yeah, the other guy.
Because Ben says on our text line, "We love you, other guy." Skylar says, "I love you, Adam." Screw that caller, LOL.
Somebody did that before?
Yes,
but what was it him?
I don't think.
I don't think so. I
it
think
was
he might have been
Bruce.
playing off of that
Yes.
caller.
Yes.
The
The other
V.
guy.
You are the V in
Yes.
the DVD.
Yes.
You keep it together, man.
I hold
The
it
V
together.
touch both the D's.
Yeah, he's the vortex.
Yes. There you go.
Another good word.
Okay.
Can I get a bell?
Derek, just think about what you just said. Take a moment. Take a moment. Take a pause there.
I didn't mean it.
Okay.
Sure, D-Mace. Sure.
Take a moment there.
Yeah, Y'all are so mad. Y'all are so mad, man.
Oh,
I did not
man.
mean anything by anything.
Yep.
Hey, look at the helicopters up there, y'all. There's 3 of them. All right, yeah.
Oh,
Hey,
man.
helicopters.
Okay, back on track. Back on track.
Oh,
All right, one
man.
texter says, is it just me, or does this kind of feel like the transition with Malarkey and Vrabel? With the GM and coach Robinson, Robinson was a capable, smart GM, and so far it seems Borgonzi just needs to find his coach. He already has his quarterback, which is the exciting part. I just wish they had fired Brian before getting Cam. Well, if they wanted the continuity and they wanted to move on from the coach, that was their window. That was their window.
Apparently, they considered it,
and
right?
apparently they considered it, according to Teron Davenport and Jeremy Fowler, but they missed that window.
But then the whole offense would be new.
Yeah.
Because presumably then you're losing Bill Callahan.
Mhm.
And the whole idea is you're trying to build the one area that you've laid some groundwork for, the offensive line. And you've got, I don't think it would change even if you fire him. He has had a great track record of building offensive lines, Bill Callahan. So you have an offense that isn't new for everybody. It's only new for the rookie.
Yeah.
And you've done the work. You've put in the investment in the offensive line. So I they considered it, right? They did consider cleaning everything out, but I do think it's a better situation for Ward than it would have been if everything was new.
Yeah, because what people got to understand is that, in this situation, it's just Cam learning the offense. Because everybody else should know the offense. It's Cam and the rookies coming in and a few of the free agents. They are learning the offense. And everybody else, they're implemented, they've already been implemented into the offense, so they can help sort of like the quarterback as he's maturing and as he's developing. Just think if you all of a sudden now, after last season, you changed the head coach, which teams do. I get it. So it's not like it's out of the norm, but you change the coach, and now you've changed the whole offensive scheme and you changed the whole defensive scheme. Now the people that you brought in to play in that defense ain't the same defense now.
Right. And
not only are you going to
struggle,
exactly
drafting towards it too,
absolutely.
Right?
So again, I know teams do it, so it's not like it doesn't happen, but it's not just a one singular change. It's a domino effect. You got to change the offense, you got to change the defense, change special teams, you got to change everything about the locker room, because the new coach may want to come in and change he may look at things a lot different from what the last coach did.
This story from Teron Davenport and Jeremy Fowler, it serves as a sort of cautionary tale, because it doesn't just focus on Cam Ward and Brian Callahan. It focuses on Bryce Young and Frank Reich, and it focuses on Caleb Williams and Matt Eberflus. And here is a section of the story about Bryce Young and Frank Reich. Remember, Frank Reich came in and he was fired before the end of his first season. This from Teron Davenport and Jeremy Fowler. Quote, Reich named Thomas Brown, an ascending coach from the LA Rams coaching tree, as his offensive coordinator. The plan was to blend Sean McVay's Ram system with Reich's offensive background and philosophy. But Reich was calling the plays for Young and said he realized at some point between the spring and training camp that using the McVay terminology while calling the plays himself, quote, wasn't going to feel right, end quote, so he made tweaks. One team source felt Reich never, quote, truly bought in to Brown's plan of attack. Another believed the staff featured, quote, too many cooks in the kitchen, preparing Young, who was 1-9 in 10 starts and ranked 29th in the NFL in total QBR with a rating of 32 when Reich was fired November 27th. A quote from Reich, I don't know if that ultimately ended up being fair to Bryce, Reich said of the blending of systems. It wasn't because of Thomas. He brought his A game every day. Myself and the other guys that were with me, we were doing the same thing. In many respects, we brought it together the best we could. It probably made it a little more difficult for Bryce.
So you were trying to implement two different systems.
That's the sound of like a mess reading about that.
I'm confused reading it. I can only imagine what it was like for Bryce Young learning it.
But you made the reference before about the two, Italian versus Spanish or French versus, that seems like you had two languages coming together and they didn't mesh.
And it didn't. And it did. And you're hoping that that you don't want that to happen here in Nashville, where you've created one thing and then you've dismissed the person that helped create it, and you bring in somebody else that doesn't want any of what you've created the last year, and he throws it out, and now the whole team has to learn a new concept. Again, it happens, so it's not like it's out of the ordinary, because it's not. It happens in the NFL, but you've struggled too long as a team, because if you don't get it right now, I am afraid you're going to become the Detroit Lions. Seriously. Where you are in purgatory just for, like, you're not going to see many winning seasons.
We're not talking about the Lions of today.
No, we're not talking about the Lions of today.
I know.
I'm talking about my Detroit Lions that I grew up with.
Yeah.
They had great players to good players. But for whatever reason, whatever was going on internally, they couldn't win football games.
Barry Sanders, Calvin Johnson.
They had the players.
Matthew Stafford. You can go further back.
Exactly. They've had all the players.
Dan Orlovsky.
They've had all the players. It's just when you're firing guys and all this other stuff, and there's no, there seems to be no continuity or no one. Everyone's thinking opposite of one another. Of one another. You're not gonna have a successful team. You're just not.
And I know that Brian Callahan has a ton to prove, not just to Titans fans, but to the Titans front office and Titans ownership. And I think the best case scenario, we talked about this earlier, the best case scenario would be for Amy Adams Strunk and Chad Brinker and Mike Borgonzi to just take a beat. If things don't go well immediately, don't make a rash decision, because we know in all sports, firing the coach is the easiest way to placate a frothing at the mouth fan base, because fans of bad teams want scalps. They want someone to pay for how bad their team is. And this is a saying that we have said for God knows how long. You can't fire the players,
right?
So you got to fire the coach. But I'm hoping that's not the case. We are all expecting the Titans to struggle this season. We will make our predictions. Willie will have his 10 Titans questions as we approach week 1. I am sure there will be a question about the over-under for wins for the Titans this season. I imagine that all of us, and I imagine the majority of you, are going to have that number no higher than 5 and probably no higher than 4. But as hard as it might be for Amy Adams Strunk, let's say the season plays out the way that Connor Orr of Sports Illustrated predicted, because he went through game by game, not just the record, but which weeks the Titans will win and which weeks the Titans will lose. 0-4 to start the season, a win in week 5 against the Cardinals on the road, a loss at home to Mike Vrabel and the Patriots. Imagine if that happens. The Titans will be 1-6 if they lose, if that plays out the way that Connor Orr predicts. I'm sure Amy Adams Strunk will be sitting in her suite at Nissan Stadium watching Mike Vrabel. We'll see pound the Titans, maybe just squeak out a win. Who knows? Not a good look. Let's see if she can show some restraint. I'm skeptical. Let's just leave it like that.
And we're painting the worst case scenario. Hopefully it's easier and it doesn't get that bumpy, but it absolutely could,
yes,
with injuries and things like that, because of the precarious state of the roster. They had 3 empty drafts, 3 drafts that yielded Roger McCreary and basically nothing else, and then 2 other drafts that the jury's out, but it doesn't look like there is a huge nucleus built from those 2 drafts. You got Skoronski, Sweat, Latham, and I don't know, Cedric Gray in there. So is Cedric Gray any good? I don't know. Like it's a lot of question marks at that point.
615-737-1025. We will continue to take your reaction on the Titans' quest for continuity. I like that rolls off the tongue. By the way, Bruce texted in to let me know he was kidding. Thank you, Bruce.
Okay.
Thank you, Bruce. I mean, I thought the 1-year anniversary of D. May Swinging and Donick is rapidly approaching. And I've only lived here and worked in sports for more than 10 years. Not as long as Derek and Willie, but that's something.
You're the other guy still, though.
Yes, I am still the new kid.
Still the V
in this group.
between the D.
Okay, we got to stop.
Pause, bro.
Man,
Derek, take your headset off now. 615.
Derek and Donnie, Dodo.
Okay, 615
Y'all so immature, man.
737-1025. You know, there are other teams in the AFC South that have things going on. We'll wrap up the show by talking about them next. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Ving at 1025 The Game.
Hey, the countdown is on. We are 1 week and 1 day away from the debut of our Take It to the Bank segment, brought to you by F&M Bank. Banking made easy on purpose. The defending champion, Derek Mason, will try and go for another title, although we closed some of the loopholes that gave him an advantage last year. But that's beside the point. F&M Bank, 20 locations in our listening area. There's one that's right in your backyard, most likely, up in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, over in Clarksville, West End Avenue here in Nashville, and, of course, everywhere in between. Just go to myfmbank.com, and you will find a location right in your neighborhood. F&M Bank, banking made easy on purpose. We take it to the bank every Friday. Member FDIC.
If he doesn't play both sides of the football, you wasted a pick. You wasted assets. You decided that moving up to number 2 wasn't truly what you wanted to do because he's not the number 2 pick as a wide receiver. He's not the number 2 pick as a cornerback. He is the number 2 pick if he plays both.
Right.
He is the number 2 pick if he affects both sides of the football. If he doesn't do that, what you gave up, giving up next year's first-round pick to get him is not worth it to play offense primarily or no defense and vice versa. And so to me, if you have to make that decision based on his inability to physically hold up throughout 17 games, it was a mistake to draft Travis Hunter.
That was Ryan Clark today on ESPN talking Travis Hunter. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you live at First Horizon Park. Sounds and Louisville Bats coming up 5. That's when first pitches. That game will be broadcasted, of course, on ESPN 94.9. The Fan. I have washed out Derek's mouth with soap during the break.
Thank you.
Yes. Where in my house, that would be known as a bathroom word. My son has recently started saying that. But I heard that from Ryan Clark this morning. We obviously talk about the Titans every day. We talked about the Indianapolis Colts the past couple of days with the news that Daniel Jones will be starting over Anthony Richardson. So we've sort of ignored the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Houston Texans. But I thought that was a strong opinion by Ryan Clark on Travis Hunter, who made his preseason debut in the Jags' first game. I believe he played 18 snaps, 10 on offense, 8 on defense, if I recall correctly. But he's out with, Willie, the upper body injury.
Oh, hockey-esque.
Yes, he is out with an upper body injury. I believe he is being held out of joint practices. I want to say the Jags and the Panthers are doing joint practices. He is not participating in those, if I just read that correctly. But, Derek, you have been skeptical of Travis Hunter's ability to play both sides in the NFL. And I feel like a lot is riding on that, particularly on offense. With Liam Cohen now in Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence has not lived up to the billing of being the number 1 overall pick a few years ago. I know they have Brian Thomas Jr. at wideout, but it feels like, and I think Ryan Clark said this during this discussion, it's not Travis Hunter's responsibility to get Trevor Lawrence going, but I imagine he's going to play a big part in that.
Oh, of course. And listen, I said this a long time ago. If you're drafting Travis Hunter in a top 2 or 3 picks, you had to have been drafting him because in your mind you believe he can play both positions. Because there's nothing that he showed me to tell me he was the best receiver in the country or he was the best corner in the country. Now, he was one of the best receivers and one of the best corners in the country. But if I am drafting a guy solely on what I think he projects as my team, I wasn't giving up assets to move up to draft him. If he falls to me, then fine. I'm drafting him within that first 5 picks. So receivers do get drafted that high. But that's not what Jacksonville did. Jacksonville, they positioned this as we're drafting a dual position guy, a guy that can help us on offense and a guy that can help us on defense. And you know what? I don't blame Travis Hunter for putting that out. Keep on saying Henry. Travis Hunter for putting that out.
The Cheese Henry fan club is rising up. Yeah, keep talking about Travis Henry.
I'm going to start charging you a quarter every time you say that during the course of the season.
You know why? Because it moved his draft stock up, which meant he got more money. But if he's smart, which I believe he is, he only wants to play receiver primarily. Why? Because receivers get more money than defensive back any day, all day. So if they believe he's going to be a dual position guy, this kid is going to have a short career. I promise you that. He's already banged up now. And this league is nothing like college football. Even the SEC, as hard as it is, we've seen guys come out of the SEC and play in the NFL, and it's a different world. It's a different world. So you know what? I'm glad they did that because they gave up a first-round pick last year, and the guy that they draft is a hell of a player, but at one position. Figure out that position. If you don't want to, play him both positions against the Titans, and he's going to get hurt.
Well, he's already
banged
hurt.
up.
Upper body injury.
Yeah.
I imagine he's
I'm sure around the league, too.
But he's a hell of an athlete, and I get it.
I'm sure around the league, too, they're like, Jacksonville, what's their track record of pulling this stuff off? It's not great. We've talked about what's riding on Cam Ward because they didn't trade down and get the extra assets, and we know what those assets reportedly are. There's not just it's riding on Travis Hunter to play both sides of the ball, which has never been done. But put on top of that these layers. A, you have this proclamation. The Shohei Ohtani of football.
Mhm.
Travis Hunter. They're billing him. They're building this up before they know if he can do it. And so the hype is going to be tough to live up to. And then number 2, Travis Hunter was not just the second pick. He was the second pick that they traded next year's first-round pick to get. So he's got to, as Ryan Clark just pointed out, they've got to really hit it big for it to be worth what they gave up to get him.
One texter on our conversation about the Titans and continuity says, if the roster doesn't look great, so losing is all that's on the horizon for the foreseeable future, wouldn't you just keep everybody until the offseason before the new stadium opens so you can fire them all and then create some energy and excitement with everything being new and shiny?
Listen,
We're all about firing people. Aren't
Yeah, listen.
Yes.
If they're that bad going into the new stadium, just because you fire a head coach ain't gonna make people want to go to that new stadium. They're gonna be more apprehensive to go now because you got a new coach.
One texter, Josh, said about Derek's potty mouth. Thought we were about to hear about the birds and the bees.
I'm sorry.
Don't
I
be
didn't
sorry.
I didn't mean it that way.
You didn't realize what you were doing. I had to jump in there and make sure you knew. I was also reading an interesting story about the Houston Texans on The Ringer. And the author mentioned that for the first time in his NFL career, C.J. Stroud will be able to change protections and call audibles before the snap. Houston will be leaning on Stroud's knowledge and feel for the game in ways it didn't over the past 2 years. It's the type of control that the best quarterbacks across the league enjoy, from Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City to Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. But with that comes another layer of pressure for Stroud, and Stroud had the dreaded sophomore slump in year 2, but a lot of that wasn't his doing. He was running for his life a lot. I believe Pro Football Focus said that he faced the greatest number of unblocked pressures or unforced pressures. I can't remember the exact terminology. But his offensive line was leaky. They didn't have much of a running game. As Derek has mentioned countless times, their wide receivers took a hit injury-wise. So it's not, I don't know how much you can really put on the shoulders of C.J. Stroud, but I thought that was an interesting wrinkle that C.J. Stroud is now being given the keys to be able to change protections and call audibles before the snap.
Well, D-Mace, don't you think it's a little bit of an underrated story because there's so much noise with the other teams, with Richardson's drama, the Travis Hunter drama we just talked about, plus Cam Ward and all of the new GM and all of that. But the fact that this guy, C.J. Stroud, has been a big success. They've won 2 division titles, and they fired the offensive coach. That's unusual, right? Like, that's the one where you're like, that should be easy to keep the continuity.
He was a hot coaching candidate.
He was a very hot coaching candidate.
Bobby Slowick.
Yeah, I guess they felt, the second year it wasn't flowing the way they wanted it to from an offensive standpoint. Now, listen, you can say that the offensive line, was the problem, which they were, or losing their receivers. That could have been a problem. But you don't fire your OC just because of that. There has to be some philosophy issues with the quarterback and the OC. And you as a head coach feel you need to move on from that guy to get someone that better fits, what you want to do with your quarterback. Now it seems like, C.J. Stroud is able to, he's allowed some freedom, whereas he probably wasn't given that freedom. And that probably hampered him or stunned his growth some because he wasn't allowed to have that freedom that he has now.
We are live at First Horizon Park. Sounds and Louisville Bats. First pitch is at 6:35. Throwback Thursday here at the ballpark. Plenty of great seats available. Beautiful weather. You can hear that game, of course, on ESPN 94.9 The Fan. Willie, do you get the itch when you're out here? You want to get back out there on the diamond?
I love it. I love it. No question. Especially on a night like tonight where it's not super humid, sun setting, it's comfortable. Oh, yeah. That crack of the bat, it was getting to me.
You don't think
BP.
You don't think they can find a spot for you?
I think they
No,
could,
I don't.
Willie.
I don't think they can.
Come on, Willie. They could. Can you?
It is interesting. The Brewers have rated a lot of the sounds because the Brewers are having an incredible season. They've got the best record in baseball. They won again today. They beat the Cubs in a big game. The Cubs are a heck of a team too. So the Brewers are a big story across Major League Baseball, and the Sounds have produced a lot of their players.
Reese Hoskins is here on a rehab assignment.
I know. I was going to say, they need some depth. They need some, but they got to go pretty deep. They're going to need this left-hander. Yeah.
That lefty, you ain't got a
Well, you got a
curveball in you, Willie.
No.
when you send in your resume, you can use that picture from that baseball card that one listener.
Yeah, just
shared
spelled
with
my
us.
name wrong.
Yes, Willie.
Yes,
Donick.
that's how hyped up I was. I get
See,
the name
Willie,
wrong.
I'm still mad at you. You didn't keep your Blue Jays jersey. I think I am more upset than you are.
I know. I still don't have it. I don't have it. Should have kept it.
What sort of
They
trinkets
still-
do you have from your baseball career?
I got an old pair of pants. I got a beat up hat. A satin jacket.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
It's pretty sweet. That is a pretty sweet
Okay.
jacket right there. A
Alright.
couple T-shirts.
Okay.
A couple undershirts.
You ever
It's not much.
bust out the satin jacket around the
The
house?
satin jacket, I could go to a vintage store and get some good coin for that.
Okay.
Yeah,
It is
all
nice. Yeah.
Good to know.
Oh, Blue Jays.
I'll break it out for you guys one
Okay.
time. I'll break it
Alright.
out. Yeah.
Well, Willie Donick won't be on the field, but the Nashville Sounds will be on the field shortly against the Louisville Bats. First pitch is at 6:35. That game can be heard on ESPN 94.9 The Fan. Thank you to the Sounds for having us out today. We will be back in studio. It's been a minute. We missed David. We'll see you tomorrow.
I miss you guys too.
Here's the most important question. Has the air conditioning been fixed?
I believe so. It feels good in here.
Okay, good.
This is good.
Okay, good. We can get rid of all the Bucs fans. Sounded like we were doing hurricane reports from the beaches of the Outer Banks the other day. But we will be back in studio tomorrow, back at 3 o'clock. Until then, have a great evening. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 3.
Be love on your people. Have a safe, blessed, wonderful Thursday. We love you. I love you. Peace.